Hi everyone, thanks so much for listening to another episode of Dogman Encounters Radio. I'm Vic Cundiff and I'll be your host for the show. Before we bring on tonight's guest, if you've had a Dogman encounter and would like to speak with me about it, whether in private or on the show, please go to dogmanencounters.com and submit a report. I'd love to hear from you. If you've had a Sasquatch sighting and would like to be a guest on Bigfoot Eyewitness Radio, please go to bigfooteyewitness.com and submit a report. Well, you know what they say about the best laid plans. I had 2 eyewitnesses lined up to interview for shows this week, but as it turned out, neither one of them was able to do an interview in the end. So instead of not airing a show tonight, I decided to put together a Marvin marathon, and here we are. Thanks for listening.
My encounter happened on February the 19th. Me and my cousin, we were sitting in the house looking at TV, just like any other day. So she get a call from her daughter, and her daughter asked her if she could come and bring her some food. So she said, okay, we'll be there. So we got up to leave out the house, get in the car. So we drive. So we stopped to get her food. So as we driving out to where her daughter worked, because her daughter works out in the country, so it ain't like it's no house here. Then right next to it, it's another house. It's just all open woods. So as we driving, I said, I'm going to look to see if I can see some deer. So as I'm looking, because going to the job, I'm on the right-hand side, right there with the tree line and stuff. So while we driving, I'm looking, but I don't see no deer. But I do see cows, horses, and stuff like that, because I guess there's someone out there that own a farm or something. And I guess the cows was out there, grazing or just walking around. So we driving, I'm still looking, I don't see nothing. So we get out to our job, we go in, we take the food to her. So we sat in there for a few, just to talk to her, ask her, how her day was going. She said it was going okay. So me and my cousin said, all right, then we'll just see you, when you get off of work. So we leave. So we driving back. I'm still looking, but in my mind, I was like, man, I ain't going to see no deers. But I'm still looking because I want to see a deer. So as we driving, going back, now we on the opposite side. Now about 20, 25 feet up, across from where the cows was grazing at, it's like an opening, like where they cut some trees down, but it's still surrounded by trees, but it's just an opening right there. And about 20, 25, 30, 40 feet, we driving down, I see a black figure, but at first I'm thinking it's like a stump. And I look, and what I see, it looked like a dog. But I'm saying in my mind, this can't be no dog. And it seemed like everything just slowed down because we wasn't going fast. We was only doing probably I'm going to say 20, no more than 25 miles an hour. Now, the first thing that came out was the head of this thing. The head on this thing was huge, and it had a long snout. Now, it's like facing on the other side of the tree line, over there where the cows was at. Now, as we driving and we get, a little closer, I can see more details of this creature. I see the arm. The arms is long. I mean, they long. I could see that this thing had shoulders. I didn't see the hands. I didn't see the feet. I didn't see the tail. So we riding a little more. Now I can see the front of this cryptid. The shoulders was massive. It was all black, but in the front, it had like a streak coming down, like from his shoulder down to the chest on both sides. I don't know if it was white or I don't know if it was gray. Now, mind you, Vic, this encounter happened 2:00 in the afternoon. This was a sunny day. So as I'm looking at this cryptid in the front, I'm trying to get all the details that I can, because soon we're going to bypass this creature. I could see the chest. The chest looked like a bodybuilder. Now, this creature was squatting down. I don't know if it was sitting down like on its hocks or it was just kneeling. But the way it was sitting, it was holding his arms like out in the front with his hands hanging down. But I didn't see the hands because it was a little brush right there in front of it. But it was massive. That's when I knew point blank that this was no dove. Like I said, the ears was pointed straight up. It had a long snout. I couldn't see the eye color because of the light. And this was 2:00 in the afternoon. But it was all black. Now, the hair on this creature, the fur, whatever they got, it looked like it was shiny, like the tips of it, like the tips of the hair, like it was shiny, like it was silver or gray or whitish color. But it looked like it was really groomed. And on the side, which I think of now, it looked like some of the hair on the face was like if you would take a comb and like brush out, you could see it sticking out on the side and right at the tip of the head, right where the forehead would be. So I'm studying looking at this, this creature, and we still riding slow because I can't believe what I'm seeing. Now I'm saying these things is real. And the position that it was sitting in, I'm trying to figure how tall it was, just the position that it was in, 4 to 4.5 feet tall. Now, at the time that we going back home, we out in the country. So it ain't like it's a lot of traffic coming back and forth. We the only cars that's traveling down, going back towards my cousin's house. And I didn't say nothing to my cousin at the time because she driving. And I didn't want her to turn and look and see this thing and wind up getting into a wreck or something. So we driving, like I said, everything just slow. It's like it just slowed down. And I'm looking at this thing, but the whole time it's looking over in the direction of these cows. So I don't know if it was stalking the cows, but it never turned and looked in our direction. It just stayed stern on the other side. But I'm still looking at it as we going past it. My head's turning around just watching this thing. But it's just focused on the other side. This thing head was so big, it looked like it would make 2.5 to 3.5 size of a human head. It was humongous. So after we get home, I asked my cousin. She said, "Why did you cuss in the car saying what the, And I said, I seen a Dogman out in the field when we was coming home. She said, "Why you didn't say nothing?" I said, "Because you was driving and I didn't want you to turn and look at it and wreck or something." So the next day, she said, "We're going to drive out there." But mind you, it rained the next day. It didn't rain hard, but it did drizzle a little bit, so the ground got wet. I wanted to go back to make sure that what I saw was a real flesh-breathing creature, and it wasn't a stump. So a couple days later, we go back out there. Now, mind you, from the spot that I seen it, it's not that far from the road. So we walks over there because I said I wanted to see if I see some tracks or something. But I didn't see no tracks. The spot that it was in wasn't no stump there. The brush was there that it was, kneeling down in front of. The brush was there. Now I'm trying to get the measurement of this cryptid. So I asked my cousin to stand in that spot. So while she's standing in that spot, I'm trying to get a measurement of how tall it would be just kneeling down in the position that it was. And so where the ears was that I seen it, because it wasn't like it standing, stooping straight up. It had like a little slope to it, far as in the front. Now, from where the ears at, it came up to like where her breast was. And my cousin is like 5'5" or 5'6". So that's where it was kneeling. So I don't know how tall this thing would have been if it stood up on twos. Now, right there where this creature was, about 15 feet behind it, that's where the tree line started at, from where they cut the trees out in that little spot. So we walked back there. Now, about 40 feet back, it's like a little pond back there. So it is water back there. So I don't know if they thriving out there by the water and the deers across the cows across the street. But that's my encounter, Vic.
There are other people you know of who seem to have had encounters of their own as well. Please tell us about their experiences.
Well, the first one I'm going to tell you about is the guy Dave. And he's the guy that do work on my niece's house. So one day he was in the house. I was sitting in there, studying, doing my Dogman stuff. And he asked, "What you doing?" I was like, "Nothing. I just like to study this stuff right here." I didn't tell him what. So my sister nudged me and she said, ask him about it. I said, "No, I'm not going to ask him that." So she said that, "Do you believe in cryptids?" And he said, "Which one?" She said, "Dogman." He said, "Yes, I do." He said, "I had a sighting. If you have time, I'll tell you about it." I said, "Well, we're not doing nothing, I would love to hear about it." Now, he said that in Fayetteville, like on the outskirts of the county, he used to go out there, go fishing, and go hunting all the time. So he said one day he went fishing, and he told his father. His father said that he would meet him down there. So he said he get there. Now, mind you, before you come in, it's a trail that leads down to this lake. On the opposite side, it's a parking lot when you can park at. So he gets down there. He meets up with his father. So he tell his father he gonna take the boat and go up to the other end. So his father said, "Okay, I'll be up there in a few." So he takes the boat and he goes up to the other end, which would be northbound. So he said he get up there. He turns off his boat because he got like a little motorboat. Now, mind you, this is a nice sized lake. It's pretty big. So he gets up there. He put his bait on, everything as usual. He throw his rod, the reel in the water, and he starts to fish. Now, he said about after 5 or 10 minutes fishing, he hears something on the opposite side of the tree line, which his boat is facing northbound. So that would be to his left. He hears something on the opposite side of the tree line. He can hear like sticks breaking and like something's walking. But he's saying that this whatever was walking, it was walking like it was bipedal. But he looks over, he calls out to his father, "Dad, Dad." He gets no response. So he pays it no attention. He continues to fish. So after a few more minutes, he hear this thing walking again. But now it's coming around, like it's coming around the lake. So he get a funny feeling. It's like somebody's watching him. So he yells out again, "Dad, Dad." He still don't get no response. So he continued to fish. It's coming around. He can still hear the steps walking through the woods. He hear the trees and the little twigs on the ground. He hear them breaking. He said this thing was heavy because he could hear the footprints. Now he said he got a feeling like something is stalking him. He said he never had this feeling ever in his life. And he said he'd been fishing at this lake for years. So this thing is still walking, coming all the way around to his right on the side, the right-hand side. Now, mind you, this is closer to where he got his boat at. So this thing is coming around again. So he called out again, "Dad, Dad." He still don't get no answer, Vic. So he continued to fish. Now he got something. He caught a fish. He reeling it in. He gets the fish up. Now we say when he turns around, he got the fish, to show his dad. And he say, "Dad, look." And when he turns around, he said he seen something that shouldn't exist. He said about, 25 to 30 feet, because the shoreline wasn't that far from where he was at on his boat. He see this thing step out from behind a tree. He got one arm on the tree, the other arm is down. He said this thing looked like a giant wolf standing on two legs, bipedal. He said it had pointy ears. It had a huge head. Now, by this time, it's daybreak, but he could see this thing. He could see this thing clearly. He see the long arms. He said this thing had shoulders. It had muscles. He didn't see the feet. He said it was all black. The eyes, I think he said the eyes was amber on this cryptid. But he said it just stood there and it just stared at him. It was just basically looking at him. He started his boat up because he said the boat he had wasn't that big. He started it up and he said he got out of there. Now, this is a spot that he said he used to fish all his life ever since he was a little boy. And he said he hasn't been back to that spot since. Now, this is the guy that said he knew a lot of people that had sightings in North Carolina. And this is the one that had been getting me these sightings because of a lot of the guys that he hang with, because they got like a little club, fishing and hunting club, whenever hunting season come in, that they usually go together. But he know a lot of people done had sightings down there, and he been really good to get me these sightings from people. The only thing that he said they don't want is for people coming down there on their property, knowing the right spot where they live at, with cameras and, guns, and putting up trail cams and all that stuff, and causing a lot of problems. So I told him, I said, I'll make sure that I don't give exactly this place where the sightings have taken place. But, yeah, that's his encounter. And this encounter happened in Cheraw, South Carolina. And the year was 2000, around 9 o'clock. And this lady, well, I'm not going to use her real name. This lady, I'll just call her Kathy because she older now. And this is her encounter. She said that she come from a good family, church going background. She was the youngest of three. Her oldest two sisters had moved out, and out where she stay at, it's like her house and about another 3 miles, there's another house. So it ain't like they had next door neighbors. And she said that her parents was real strict. She had to come in before it got dark and everything. So she was really upset because she couldn't come out and play with her friends until it got dark and everything. Now, she said that every night she used to look out her back window because they live in the back where the woods at. They just surrounded by woods, but just outside her back door, about 25 feet, is where the tree line start at. And she said every night, it's like clockwork, she would see the deers come down and go through her yard. Now, they had these floodlights out back, so she would watch them every night. But she said this particular night, she was waiting to see the deers. She said they never showed up. So she said, I'm going to wait for about another 15 minutes to see if I see them. So they never showed up. So she said she went out in the hallway to look in her mother room to see what they was doing. Now, her mother and father was laying in bed watching TV. So she said, I'm going to just go for a walk and to see if I could see any. Now, mind you, she said that she have did this on numerous occasions and nothing never came of it because she never got caught. But she grabs a flashlight. She goes out and she's saying in her mind, I'm going to just walk just a little bit up in the trail to see if I see any deers. So when she gets to the edge of the tree line, she said that she noticed something that she never noticed before. She said it was dead silent. She said she didn't hear none of the animals that she hear at night, like the crickets and the bugs and stuff like that. But she said she didn't even pay it no mind. So she said she started walking. Now, she said after she walked maybe 5 minutes, she stopped because on the left-hand side up in the tree line, she said she heard a tree break, like something would snap a branch in half, crack. So she shined a flashlight, but she don't see nothing. So she continued to walk, but she walking real slow. She said she wasn't walking fast. So she heard again, rustling in the bush. She heard another crack. So this time she shines the flashlight over there again. Now, this part, and this is her words, when she shined the flashlight over there, she said she seen what looked like was a wolf. She said when she shined this light in this thing's face, this is what really messed her head up. She said this thing raised it. She said it was an arm, raised it up and put what looked like was a human hand, but she said it was huge, and it blocked the light. So by her being scared, she put the light back down, like towards her, like in front of her. And she looked over there. Now, the moon was out, and she could still see the silhouette, but she see these yellow, huge eyes, and it's staring right at her. She don't put the light back on, and she said this thing walks. It walks out to the trail. But the whole time it's walking, it got those yellow eyes on her. So she said she's still looking at this thing. It gets into the middle of the trail. She put the light back on it again. That's when she said she got a real good look at this thing. Now, I wrote it down. She said that this thing was all black, She said it had long arms. She could see the hands, and she said she seen what looked like black nails. She said that this thing did have a bushy tail, you know, and I asked her how long it was. She said, I don't know, but I know it had a bushy tail. She could see the legs. She said the legs was built funny, like it was backwards or something. She said the head was huge. Now, I asked, I said, how tall you think it was? She said, this thing was 2.5 for me. At that time, she said she was like 4'11". So she said she took the light and took it off of it. She said when she took the light off of it, this thing started walking towards her. Now, she walking backwards, but she said this thing taking huge steps. Couldn't be no more than, I'm guessing, she said 20, 25 feet, because like I said, this happened a long time ago. She said, but what was so strange about it, when she put the light back on it, it would stop. It just stopped. She said it wouldn't move no more. So she kept the light on this thing. She was walking backwards, looking back, walking backwards. So she said she gets about 5 feet from the edge of the tree line. Now, mind you, her house is right there. It's not that far from the tree line. So she said she gets right there. When she put the light back on it, it stops again. Then she said this thing starts to growl at her. It was like a low, gruntle growl. She said, but it made her chest feel funny. She said she kept the light on it, and it's like she couldn't move then. So that's when she heard her mother come out and call her name. And when she did that, she said she closed her eyes and screamed real loud, but she still got the light in front of her on this creature. After she finished screaming, she looked up. All she said that she could just hear this thing running through the tree line like it wasn't nothing, breaking sticks, knocking over small trees and stuff like that. She turned around and ran. Went in the house, and her mother said, what did I tell you about going outside at night? And she said, Ma, I saw a werewolf. And her mother said, ain't no werewolves out there. Go up to your room, you punished. And she tried to tell her parents, you know, what she saw was real. So she said her family still owns that property, but she don't even go back there to this day. Now, this encounter happened in Richmond County. And this encounter happened last year, 2017, around August. This guy named, which I'm going to use as Jake, people own property out in the country in Richmond County. And he said he used to walk his dogs every day behind their house. You know, it's a trail back there that leads down to this pond. And he used to, you know, take the dogs down there every day. So this one day, you know, he got up and said, well, I'm going to take the dogs out for a walk. So as he walked and he's going down through the trail, the dogs running around, playing, having fun, do what dogs do. So when he gets down to this little pond, he sees tracks. But what he see, he know that they're dog footprints. But he said, come on, these prints is way too big to be a dog. So he took one of his pit's feet and put inside this other one. And he said that it just made his dog print look like a marble. That's how big and huge he said this was. And he said it ain't no bad because ain't no bads down here. So they circled the pond, went around, came back, and said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and take them back home. I'm going to feed them and everything, and water. I'm going to call it a night. So he goes back, take them home. Like I said, fed them, gave them water, and he went in the house. So he said when he in the house, the dogs, they start barking. So he looks out the window because he's sleeping in the back. He looks out the window, and he see them. Now, they barking at something in back of the house up in the tree line, because where the woods started behind their house is real close. So he hits the floodlights because he had the little light on, but he turned them floodlights on because that lights it up. So he looks, he don't see nothing, so he don't know what they barking at. So he goes back in, sit down, he's looking at TV. They starts it up again. He goes back and look at it. So he's like, man, what is these dumb dogs barking at? So he looking in the direction where they looking at, but he don't see nothing. So he's like, dumb dog. So he goes back, in the room, look at TV again. So about 5-10 minutes pass, he said they started up barking again. So he goes downstairs, goes out the back door, and he looks. Now, he say this time he can see a silhouette of something. He see a silhouette of something standing up in the tree line. But he don't know what it is. So he don't pay no attention. He goes back in the house. They barking again, Vic. And they barking loud this time. So he goes out back again. Now he said he looked. He said he see something. He said this thing had amber orange eyes, whatever it was, and it was standing up. But he only see the silhouette. So he goes in the house. He grabs his gun. He comes back out. He said he sees something come out of the tree line down by maybe about 10 feet from his dogs. He said this thing was walking on 2 legs. Now he get a good look at it. He said it looked like a black wolf. And it's just standing there, but he got the gun in his hand. So I'm asking him, I'm saying, well, can you tell me how it looked? He said it looked like a wolf. It had a big head. He said it had long arms. He could see the ears sticking up. He said it had a snout. He couldn't see no tail. He couldn't see the feet. But he said that the shoulders on it was huge. He didn't see no claws. And then he said that this thing started growling in the direction towards other dogs. Now the dogs, all them tucked their tail between their legs, he said, and ran in their lower house. So he thinking in his mind now, should I shoot? But I don't know what this thing is. So he said he shoot a warning shot. Boom! He shoots in the air. But this thing just standing there. So he said he shoots again. Boom! And it's still standing there. Then he said all of a sudden it started coming towards him. I think he said it took like 2 steps, but they was huge steps. So he said he shoot again, but he shoot by the dirt. Boom! He said you could see the dirt jump up out the ground. So he got his back door open. He backs in his door, goes in the house. He shut it. He's looking out the window, he said he still see the creature there. So after about, it couldn't have been that long, he said he was staring at it. He said he looking at this creature. The creature starts backing up, drops on all 4s, and run back up in the tree line. So now he thinking, okay, this thing gone. He don't know what made it turn around and run and go back in the tree line. But he said he went in the house. He goes in the house and lays down. He go to sleep. So he wakes up the next day. When he goes out there, all his dogs are dead. Like something pulled the head off. Something pulled the back, like where the butt at, pulled that off. Tore the arms off and everything, the legs, and scattered it all over his yard. It was a trail leading all the way up to the tree line where you can find dog body parts. Now, he calls the police. They comes out there. He telling them what happened. He say, man, a werewolf ate my dogs. He said, man, police telling him, they laughing and chuckling like it's a dope joke. Now, this guy's crying because he mad, because they don't believe nothing. So they saying, man, it's no werewolves down here. It was a bear. He said, man, it's not no bear. Y'all know ain't no bears down here in this area. He said, go down there by that little pond down there and look at them big dog prints down there. So they put in the paper that local family owners' dogs got killed by a bear. And he was really mad about that because they covered that up and didn't tell the truth. My son had a sighting this year too, and this happened in Greensboro, North Carolina. My son had went to see his son, take him out for him to play, get him something to eat. So after my son did that, he was on his way home. And as my son driving, he's out in the country. Now, this road is black. It's no lights or nothing like that. Only thing you can see is when the light hit the reflectors that's on the ground. So he said when he driving, he said he pulls over, and he pulls over on the side because he had got a message or something on his phone. He started texting. Now, he got the window rolled down on the passenger side. So he said he can hear something up on the tree line making noise, like something walking and breaking sticks. So he said he looks up, he see this shape of something tall and black. He can see the ears on this thing, and he can see a snout. So he say, he looking at it because he can't believe what it is. He said, man, that can't be no man because it's too tall and too huge. So he started driving. Now, as he driving, this thing's moving with him. 20. This thing's running, keeping up with him. 25. 30. This thing is keeping up with him, running through the tree line. You can hear the trees and stuff breaking. It seemed like the faster he got, the faster this creature got. And he got up to like 50, 60. This thing kept up with him all the way up to that time. And then he said he started flooring it, and you could constantly see this creature just backing off from him. But he said this thing, he said it was huge. He said it couldn't have been no human because a human don't have dug ears and no snout. So that was basically his account. It was a short one. This happened in Richmond County too. He said one night when he was driving, he said this gate was about 15 to 25 feet tall. And he said he seen something all black climbing this gate. And he said, it's like he said it pulled up on the gate 2 to 3 times and it was over on the other side. But he said it was all black. He said it looked like a canine, but it wasn't small. He said this thing was huge. And I'm saying to myself, well, son, I'm not saying that a regular dog can't climb a gate, but he said this thing was grasping it like it had hands when it climbed that gate and went over. And when it went over on the other side, he said he just seen it run on all fours. But he said it was even big on all fours. It wasn't no ordinary dog. And he said it ran, when he seen it run, it had like a slope run to it. It didn't run normal like a normal dog. But that was a small sighting that he had too, in Richmond County. I had another sighting. This is the Durham, North Carolina site. The guy David got me in contact with this lady, and I'm going to use her name, Felicia. One day, Felicia said that she had went out with friends to have a drink, and get something to eat. So she said after they finished eating and drinking, everybody said their goodbyes. So she said she headed home. Now, the road that she said she was traveling on, it's only a one lane. You only can go one way. And all the way on the opposite side, that's when you can go the other way. But that's like 3 miles over. So she said as she was driving home, because this road is dark, it's no light. She said as she's driving home, about 25 feet in front of her, she see this deer dart out from the left to the right. So she pushes on the brakes. Now she stopped. And she just stood there. She said she didn't move because she didn't know if any more deers was going to come out. She didn't want to have no accident. Now, she rolls her window down, she said, on her side just to get some air because it was nice that night. So she said she just sitting there. So she said, all of a sudden, she said she had got this bad odor, like it was something dead out there. So on the left of her, about 15, 20 feet up, she said she heard something walking through the tree line. She could hear sticks and branches breaking and everything. So she said after about 5 minutes, this creature walks out. At first she thought it was a dog because it walks out on all fours. But she said it was funny built to be a regular dog because the back was low and up by the head was high. But she said it was just huge up top. So she said this thing is stopped in the middle of that one lane, which it ain't that big anyway, but it's a nice size, she said. And she said she heard this cracking sound. And she said what messed her head up is she looking at this thing, and it's like it stretched its leg, she said, one, and then it stretched the other one. She said, and this thing stood up. And when it stood up, she said it stood up like it had no problem standing up on two legs. And when it stood up, she said it held its nose in the air, and it started like it was sniffing something. Then it turned around. That's when she saw them amber orange eyes. She said that she wanted to scream, but she didn't know what this thing was, so she didn't. Said this thing turned around. She said this thing was huge. She said this thing was huge, bitch. She said she never been so scared in her life. So when this thing turned around, I'm asking her, can you give me details about what it looked like? She said, from what I can remember and what I seen is that the head of it looked like the head on a dog she used to have, which was a German Shepherd. She said it had a head like that, but it was just humongous. It was wide. She said it had ears sticking straight up. It had long arms. She said she could see that what looked like hands, and she could see the claws on it. She said she could see the feet, and it had the legs that was bent back like a dog. She said it did have a tail, but she don't know what far as the color of the tail. She didn't know. But she said this thing was black as night. It's like it was black, like it absorbed the light up of a car, but it was black. She said she could see the teeth because it was like it was getting ready to growl, but it didn't growl. But she did see the teeth. She said she put her car in reverse and continued to back up slow. So as she said, after she backed up about 10 feet, this thing started coming towards her. So she backing up, but it's taking huge steps. So she said she stopped. She said the thing stopped, and it just stared at her. That's when she said this thing growled. And she said when it growled, she said it's like it made her chest numb, like it just, she could feel it in her chest. She said she continued to back up again. She backed up about 20 feet, she said. It's still walking towards her. She stopped. She said now she's scared. She don't want to move now. She said she don't want to try to run it over because she don't know what's going to happen. So she said after she sat there, she said this thing started sniffing again. Then she said it turned its head quick to the right side of the tree line. She said this thing dropped down on all fours. It took one leap, and it was in the tree line, over the embankment, and in the woods. She said this thing, it did it so fast, she never seen nothing move that fast in her life. She said after being shocked so much and so scared, she said that she waited for about 15, 20 minutes before she left, and she hauled tail. She left. She got out of there. She said she don't take that road no more or nothing. She said she don't even like to go out traveling at night no more. And this encounter came out of Chesterfield County, Virginia. And the guy name is John. And this encounter happened in 1998. Now, John said that one day he had got a phone call from his father and asked him, can he come over there because his father wasn't feeling well. So John said, okay, Dad, I'll be over there. So John left out the house driving, said he was listening to the music while he was driving, but, he didn't have it up too loud. So after about 15 minutes, he comes to this intersection, and he said across on the other side of the intersection, which means he said he was making a right, then the car was over on the left-hand side. He said when he looked over there, he noticed that a guy had a flat. So he said, okay, since he had time, we would go over there and help the guy change his tire. So John said he helped the guy change his tire. And, before he left, the guy asked him, said, can I give you anything for you helping me change the tire? So John was like, no, I'm okay. That's just my good deed for the day. So he said he started driving. He said, and as he was driving, he was coming around this turn, like a bend. Then he said it turned into a straightaway. He said when he was coming around on the straightaway on the left-hand side, about 30 yards, he said he sees something dragging a deer into the woods through the tree line. So he's looking. He said he's driving, but he's not going that fast. The speed limit, I think, was like 25, he said. So he's driving. So he said as he's driving slow, he said it's like everything just really just stopped. But as he's driving slow, he looks to the left. He said he's seen this gray figure. He said it was gray. It had the pointed ears. It had a tail. He could see the arm, the left arm that it was dragging this deer up in the tree line. He said he seen the arms. He could see the hand because it just went into the tree line, dragging it. He could see the hands. He could see the arms. He said he could see the shoulders, that he knew it had shoulders. He said he couldn't really see the feet. But he said this thing was all gray. He could tell from the back that it had a head of a canine. So that was a short encounter right there. But basically, that was his encounter. And he said that it opened his eyes up to what's really out here in these woods. So he just said that he wished that it was more people out there to make people aware what's roaming the woods of North America. I have a second encounter too, Vic, and this comes out of Danville, Virginia. And this sighting happened in 1990. Now, before I get into this sighting though, Vic, I just want the listeners to know that this is a retired police officer. He was on the force for 25 years. And while he was on the force, this is when he had his encounter. So he said one day, he said he was on his way going to work. So we checked in and did everything what he had to do. Then he said he left out, started his day. So he said he get a call on the dispatch of he said it was a disturbance call. So he goes to the location of this call and he knocks on the door and he said he was greeted by an elderly lady. And he said, did you call? She said, yeah. He said, well, what seems to be the problem? So she said that something grabbed her dog and took it up in the woods. So I asked her, I said, well, do you know, what was it? She said, no, I don't know what was it. I just know it was black. It grabbed my dog and it walked up into the woods. He said, okay, do you want me to have a look to see if I see your dog? And she said, yes, can you please? So he said that he proceeded to go around back. Now he's checking out back for like disturbances and everything, on the ground and stuff like that. But he didn't see nothing usual or strange. So he said he walks up to the tree line. So as he walking through the tree line, another thing though, Vic, he did have his shotgun with him. I just want to put that out there. He did have his shotgun with him. So he said as he walking through the tree line, said he walked about 30 yards. Then he stopped because he said on the right-hand side, something over there is biting down, like an animal biting down on bones. He could hear that talking. So he shines his flashlight over in that direction. Now,
This thing that he saw, it's on an angle, but he can see the side profile of it. He said it had the head of a canine. He could see the ears, and he could see this creature putting the animal up to his mouth, started cracking. He said, then this thing stood up. And he said, when it stood up, it walked out. Now, when it walked out, he said, it's like a little path. It's not like a real big path, but it's like a little path. He said, this thing turned around. He said he still got the light on his thing. He said this thing had long arms. It had broad shoulders. He said that it had orange, amber eyes and a long snout. He said he could see the nails and everything, but he didn't know how long was the nail. He said then this thing took whatever he had out of his hand and he dropped it. He said then this thing started taking steps forward. He said he aimed his shotgun. He said he didn't want to shoot it at first because he knew this probably wasn't going to do no damage because he said this thing was huge. He said it had to be at least 8.5 feet tall. He said, but this thing kept coming. He said it was taking big steps. He said, so he let off a round. Boom! He said he don't hit it because it made that sound. He said, and after he let off that first round, this thing stopped. He said that the left eye on this thing kept blinking. So he's thinking that maybe some of these pellets or whatever hit this thing in his eye because it kept blinking that eye. So he knew he hit it. He said, then this thing roared real loud. He said, and then it just dropped down to all fours and it just ran. He said he left back out the woods, went to the lady's house. Now, this is what he said he told the lady. He said, Miss, I didn't see your dog or whatever, took your dog. So he said, have you seen any coyotes in the area? She said, no, I know what a coyote is, and that wasn't no coyote. He said, because this thing was walking, on 2 feet like me and you. So he got to go back to the station because he got to make a report. So he said he tell his supervisor what he saw. So his supervisor said, I hope you don't put that in your report. He said, no, I'm not going to put it in my report. He said, okay, if you value your job, I hope you don't put it in your report. So I'm thinking that these people know what's down here and they threatening people's jobs and everything and so on like that just for them to change their store. So he said that every now and then he would still go up there and check on the lady. And he had asked her, has she seen that thing again? And she said, no, she hasn't seen it no more. And she said she not buying no more animals either for it to get took again. So that was the second encounter. This encounter comes from out of Caroline County, Virginia. And the year was 2004. And this guy name is Jesse. Now, before I get into this encounter, Vic, this guy, Jesse, he had a little business that he would go around and pick up like stray dogs in the area. If people would call in, if they getting pestered with stray dogs, like if they digging in the trash or whatever. So he said that one day at work, he had got a call. So he went out to the people's property, knocked on the door, introduced himself. And the guy said that they've been having trouble with these black dogs coming on their property all the time. He said, what kind of dogs are they? He said, I don't know what kind of dogs are they. He said, see, 2 small ones like they're pups, and they say they see 2 large ones. They said that these are really large dogs, bigger than any dog they ever seen. So he said, okay, I'm going to have a look around. So he looked around on that property to see what he could see. He said, now back there about 20 yards from the tree line, he said that it was like the ground was wet back there. It was like mud and stuff. So he said he seen some big canine prints and he seen a pup print from the front, but it didn't look like no front paw of a dog because he said they had like digits, like finger digits in it. So he said, I don't really see nothing out there, but I'll come back tomorrow morning. So he left. The next day he got up. He knocked on the door. The old lady comes to the door. He said, well, I'm here. I'm getting ready to check around. Now, mind you, in the back, they got a lot of area back there. They had a nice-sized house, so the house wasn't really small. So he said he goes around the left-hand side. He said, now, when he go around the left-hand side, he never made it really to the back of the house. He said he made it about 10 feet before you get to the back of the house, and that's where the yard would start at. He said when he got right there, he said he looked. He said he seen two small puffs, just like it was just laying there, right there in the small grass. But the grass was it wasn't really high, laying there in the grass. So he looked, and it's like they look like little puppies. So he said as he walking to get to the back of the house, he said he seen two big ones on all fours walking over to where the pups is. But the pups is looking, in this direction. So one of the larger ones looked over there. Then that's when it stood up. Then that's when the other one stood up. Now, he said that he believed it was a whole family, meaning a female and the male. I said, well, could you tell them apart? He said, yeah, I could tell them apart. I said, well, can you give me a description on how they look and everything? He said they had huge canine heads. They had the ears pointing up. They had long snouts, long arms. He could see the claws because he's not that far from there. He said he see the claws. He said he see the legs. He said the thighs on these things was like somebody just been doing leg work for all their life. He said it was huge, especially on the male. He said they got the bent back leg, just like a dog. He said now, on this female, he said to him, it looked like he could see breasts, like a female, but he said they wasn't large. He said, but he know them two that was sitting up top was like breasts. Then they had like smaller things under them going down. So I said, you sure? He said, man, I know what I saw. That thing had breasts, but they wasn't big. He said, now on the male, he could see the penis between his legs. He said, then after about what seemed like 5 minutes, but it wasn't that long, he said the two little ones ran up and grabbed up onto the mother, like up on her back. He said, and then they just turned around and walked up in the tree line. Now, I said, is there anything else that you know about this older couple? He said that they've been living in this house for about 25, 30 years. He said, now, when they first moved there, they used to have a lot of Bigfoot activity. I mean, constantly, all the time. He said, but after a few years, I think he said like 5 or 6 years, he said all of a sudden they just left. And they left due to these Dogmen. And he said that they're constantly having sight to this day of these Dogmen. Now, one more thing, Vic, and I was saving this for last because this is juicy. He said that these older couples, which he saw himself, this older couple got pictures of these creatures. And he said he had seen them for himself. He said, in they nice and clear, ain't all that blurred up stuff. And I asked him, I said, man, is there any way that you can get permission for me to see these pics? He said, man, I will talk to him, Marvin. He said, but I don't know if they're going to come off of them pictures like that. He said, but I've seen them personally. So I'm going to do my best to at least try to get a look at them pictures, man, because if they got pictures of Doug, man, and it's that clear, man, they got a winner right there. So, that was that encounter. Now, got a few encounters in South Carolina. Now, the first one, Vic, I got for you, this come out of Sumter, South Carolina. And the year was 2011. And her name was Donna. Now, Donna said one day she was sitting home, something that she usually do on the weekend, looking at TV. So she said while she was looking at TV, she noticed, because in her front room, she said that she got one of those big windows, and she had the curtain open, because it was nice outside, so she had the curtain open. So she said while she was looking at TV, she had got thirsty, so she got up to go get a drink of water. So over top of her sink, she said that it's a little small window there, and she had the window partway cracked. She said after she got her water, before she got ready to go back into the living room, she said she had something on the outside scratching, scratching on her house. So she's saying, what is that? She said, maybe it's a stray cat or something, trying to get up under the house or something like that. So she paid no attention. She said she goes sit in the front room, back down and look at TV. So she said while she looking at TV, she sees something out the corner of her eye, like her peripheral vision. She sees something out the corner of her eye. And at the corner of the window, coming past to where the curtain would be, she said she see a nose. I said, you sure it was a nose? She said, man, it was a black nose. And she said she could see where this, whatever it was, breathing, because it was steaming up the window. So she said, after about a few seconds, this thing walked out and stood right there in front of her window. She said, now mind you, from the ground up, her window is at least 8 feet tall. She said when she looked up, she seen a dog standing up looking in her window. She said this thing had yellow eyes, bright yellow eyes. She said it had a long snout. She said she could see the shoulders on this thing. She said she seen the arms. She said she could see the muscles in the arms. She seen the chest. Now, mind you, she didn't see the hands because she had that chair right there where the window was. She had that chair right there. So she said she just sitting there, and she said it was like it was slumped over, like it didn't stand up straight, like it was slumped over, looking in her window, looking at her, and just breathing. She said every time it took a breath, she said it seemed like this thing chest would just get big. Now she said she kind of stuck. She said she can't even move. She said then this thing showed its teeth. She said she didn't hear it growl, but she seen its teeth. She said this thing had so many teeth in its mouth, it just didn't make no sense. She said after about 30, 40 seconds, this thing looks to the right. Now to the right, where's her front door? So this thing walks over to the front door. Now she hear this thing turning the knob, just constantly turning the knob, flicking it, trying to open the door. She said over by the kitchen, she got a switch over there that turns on her floodlight. So the floodlight comes on. She said she goes back over to the front room right there where she was at. She said she could see this thing running on an angle on the other side of the street and into the tree line. Because I asked her, I said, so you didn't live like woods all around you and stuff? She said, no, her house was facing the road. And on the other side started the tree line. But behind the house is wood. So she said after this thing left, she called the police. So the police come out and she said that I don't know what it was. She said, but it was a dog looking at my window. Now, mind you, this lady told me, she said she got a good job. She didn't tell me what kind of job it was, but I was thinking that maybe she might have had a federal job or something like that. She said, but she had a good job. So she said she told these people what she saw, and they trying to tell her that ain't what you seen. They telling her, if you value your job, that ain't what you seen. I'm saying to this lady, I said, so what you say? She said, there was nothing I can say, because it's like they was threatening me to tell them I saw something else, which I didn't see nothing else. She said, I seen a dog standing up bipedal just like a human. But the whole time they keep getting her to say it was something else. So she said she went through a lot with that victim, and I asked her, have you ever had any more experiences since that incident? She said that after that had happened, she said probably about 3 days later, she said that she could hear howling on the other side of the tree line, which is across the road, because our house was right there by the road. On the other side of the tree line, she said she could hear howling. She said loud. And she said it ain't no coyotes, it ain't no wolf. She said these was loud howls. She said she been keeping her floodlights on and her curtain shut. She said because she's scared because the police didn't really do nothing. Only thing they got her to try to do was say it was something else. And that was that encounter, Vic. And I just think it's messed up because these people telling you what they saw and then they switching it up and all that. It's crazy. Now, this next encounter took place in Greenville, South Carolina. The lady name is Gloria, and she said this happened to her in 2013. She said one day she woke up getting ready to start her day because it was on the weekend. She had to run some errands. So she said she got up, got herself together, went out to the car, and started going on her way to start her errands. So she said after she took care of all her errands, she said she had stopped at this spot where she usually goes to get something to eat. So she said while she was there eating, she said she get a phone call. Now, I asked her, well, who was on the other line? She said, oh, my mother had called me and asked me was I still going to stop past there after I finished doing what I was doing. So she told her, yeah, I'll be past there. So she said she finished up her food, paid her bill, and then she left. She goes out to the car, get in, and she said she driving. Oh, one more thing. She said she never made it to the last stop. But she said as she driving, she noticed something about 40 yards up on the right. So she looking, she said she sees something crouched down. And she said when she looked at this thing crouched down, because this thing was facing on the left side of the tree line, she said this thing was like it was eating something. She said it looked like it had elbows because it was like bending it, putting it up to its mouth. So she said she slowed down and stopped at about 20 yards. So she hit her high beams. Boom! Turned her high beams on. She said this thing turns around while I squatted, turns his head and looked at her. Then she said this thing stood up, walked out into the middle of the road, facing her, looking dead at her. She said this thing had red eyes, said it looked like fire. She said this thing had to be every bit of 8 feet. She said this thing was tall and it was huge. She said it had shoulders, had the long arms. She could see the muscles because she got high beams on this thing. She could see the muscles. She seen his hand, had hands and it had claws on it. She said this thing still had that roadkill in its left hand. She said she seen the thighs, she seen the legs, the bent back legs. She said, could she see the feet? Now, I asked her, what color was this thing? She said this thing had spots and it had the color of a, a hyena. She said it looked like a hyena, like it had the colors of a hyena. And she said that this thing had got aggressive, just like hyenas get. She said this thing started pushing its chest forward and growling at her. It had dropped the roadkill. Now this thing growling at her, she said then this thing started walking. Boom, boom. She said, and as this thing's walking, she said she sees a light coming in the opposite direction, meaning it would be coming east because she going north. She said she seen a light. She said, I guess once this car was getting close because the other car had to see it because the lights was right there. She said this thing took a leap. It went to the opposite side. She said that from the medium strip to where it was at, to that tree line, she said it had to be at least 30, 35 feet. And she said this thing leaped into that tree line, like it wasn't nothing. But I had asked her though, Vic, I said, is you sure about them colors? She said, this thing looked like a hyena. She said she know what a hyena looked like. She said, that's just what this thing looked like. Oh, I asked her, did she see a tail? He said she didn't see a tail on it, but she did say that it looked just like a hyena. But she seen the legs and everything. She said that after this thing leaped and went on the other side, she put that gas and she hauled tail. She said when she gets to her mother house, she goes in her mother house, she sits down. She said she hysterical. She said she couldn't stop shaking. She said she was shaking for hours. And her mother kept asking her, baby, what's wrong? What's wrong? She said, it's nothing wrong, Ma. It's nothing wrong. She said, yes, it is, baby. Tell me what's wrong. She said it broke her heart not to tell her mother the truth. But she told her mother, she said, Ma, I'm upset because I almost got into an accident and I could have lost my life tonight. This lady was, so hysterical when she was telling her mother that. And when I was talking on the phone, it just brought all that back. And she had to keep stopping and taking breaks and everything, which I understand. She even cried a moment when we was on the phone and everything. And I told her, take your time. You ain't got rushing up like that. And I was telling her that I had a sight. And these things, they will put you out and make a person lose it. She say that she's still having nightmares of this thing. It's like when she dreaming about it, she said she could see this thing clear as day. So I asked her had she had any more sightings like that. She said no, and she don't want to have no more. So I don't blame her. I told her she having problems. She could call me anytime she wants. So that's basically that. So now I'm on the last one. This sighting comes out of Kershaw, South Carolina. The year 1991. Now, this guy here, his family own a farm. They own land down there. And on that family property, they got chickens, they got a few cows, and they got horses. And he said sometimes his chore was to tend to the animals. So he said this one day he ain't had nothing to do. He had spare time. He had the day free, what he had told me. So he said that he called his buddy Bob, who usually go fishing and hunting with him. And so he told Bob, he said, if you're not doing nothing, Bob, you want to come over and we go fishing? So Bob tell him, yeah, I'll be over, just give me about a half hour. Now, on this guy's property, they got some little four-wheeler things. So when they do go, they can ride and then they can park their four-wheeler. Now, another thing, on their property, he said that they got 3 ponds on their property. And he said in one certain pond, because he said their ponds are huge, he said in one of their ponds, he said they got a lot of bass. So he said that would be the spot where they would go at looking to fish for some bass. He said, so after about 30, 35, 40 minutes, he said, Bob come. So he said they load up everything on the four-wheelers. And he asked Bob, he said, Bob, you got your sidearm? He said, yeah, I got mine. So both of them was protected because they always carry their guns when they fish or hunting and everything. So he said that he told Bob, he said, we're going to go out to the pond. They got the bass in it. So mind you, he said they got several trails that they could go through leading to these ponds throughout the property. But they said they had one real big wide trail where the four wheels can go through. Really, both of them can go through side by side. That's how wide it was. So he said while they riding, they see the usual animals like possums, they see deers and stuff like that, squirrels, coons. So he said after about 35 minutes, he said they get to this pond. So they parked their four-wheelers. They both had coolers. So Bob goes about 30 feet down from the guy who owns that land right there. So he said all right, well, I'm going to stay up here and I'm going to fish at this spot. So he said that they threw their reels in and they started to fish. He said after about 15 minutes, Bob caught his first fish. So he reeled it in, took it off the hook, he put it in the cooler, threw his line back in. So he said after a few more minutes, he caught another fish, reeled it in, and he put it in the cooler. So he looks up at his buddy and he said, oh, I guess you ain't having no luck today. Do you want to come down here with me? He said, no, I'm all right. I'm going to catch me something today. He said, so he still got his reel in the water because he never caught nothing yet. So then he said he heard something behind him about 20 yards up in the tree line because he said it's a lot of brush up there too. He said he heard something. He said he heard something up there like it's sticks breaking and stuff like that. So he said, Bob, do you hear that? And Bob said, no, I don't hear nothing. So he said, come here for a minute, Bob. So Bob comes up there. He said, listen, but they don't hear nothing. So he said after a minute, they hear it again. But this time, it's about 10 feet from where the guy who owned the property, they hid down there, about 10 feet from where it was at the first time. So they both hid now. So Bob looks over in that direction and he tells them, he say, look, he said when he looked over there, he said that he see a set of ears sticking up just above the brush. Now, mind you, this brush, as it goes, starts to get a little higher, but they can see these ears. The ears is facing towards them, so they see two ears sticking straight up. So this thing, they watching the ears, it's like it turns around and it walks into the direction to where Bob was at, down there fishing. So they still watched it, but the ears disappeared because of the brush. It had got really high. So he said after a few seconds, he said they hear this popping sound. You know, like something making pops like they bones. He said then this thing stood up. He said that when it stood up, he said he know for a fact that brush right there got to be at least 6 feet. Say this thing towered over top of that. And this thing looks in their direction, looks straight at him. Then it turns and looks back down the direction to where Bob was fishing at. It walks down. Now, when it walks down there, it's like a little trail slope that you go down. This thing walks down there. And when it walks down there, it stands 5 feet from where the pond begins. And this thing turns around and it looks at him. Now, both of them see this. Now, I had to get the guy who owned the property. I got his story first. Then I had to wait and get the other guy's story so I could collaborate them together. And pretty much their story was identical. Maybe it was a little bit off as far as like the height of the grass, or they might think this thing had silver tips and stuff like that. But anyway, their stories was identical. So they say this thing is looking at them now. So, you know, I asked, what did it look like? They said this thing had a long snout, and they said it was wide. They said this thing had shoulders, the long arms. This thing only like 20 feet away from. This thing had long arms, and this thing had long claws. They said it had thick legs. It had the bent back legs, just like a dove would have. And they said this thing had, okay, on the left-hand side, no, the right-hand side of this thing snout, they said they could see teeth on the right-hand side where the snout would be. But they said this thing mouth would close, but they could see the gums and all that up there. They could see all them teeth right there. From that up there where the canine started at, all the way back there. And this thing mouth was closed. So what they were saying that they think this thing was wounded. Like it got in a fight or something. Either something bit it or another Dogman scratched it with them claws and ripped all that. Because all that was gone. on the right-hand side of this thing's snout. So they said this thing is just standing there. It's just standing there. After about 10 or 15 seconds, this thing started to growl real low. So they looking. So the guy who owned the property, he say, Bob, I think it's time for us to go. And Bob say, you're right, it's time for us to go. Now, mind you, they still got their side on. So they said after they started walking backwards, this thing get ready to take a step. Now, the guy that owned the property say he draws his weapon. He got a .357. He draws his weapon. So he said, man, Bob, if this thing take another step, I'm going to shoot it. The thing took a step. It started walking. He said he a warning shot. Boom. This thing still walking. He shoots again. He shoots what would be to his right, but to that creature left. He shoots again. He shoots it at the dirt. Hit the dirt. They can see the dirt. Boosh. Pop up. So he said this thing still walking. Now mind, this thing wasn't that far from him. So this thing closing in. So he said he shoots again. Boom. He said he hit this thing in the right shoulder. It's like it nudged him, like it just jerked him just a little bit. But he said it's like it didn't even phase this thing. Now he said this thing had to be intelligent. He said because where he shot this thing at, it took his head and looked over in that direction. He said that messed their head up. He said this thing had to be smart because this thing know where that we got shot at. And it looked over in that direction. Then this is the really freaky part. He said this thing looked to the left of him. He said he don't know what kind of noise this thing made. It must have been a call out for a signal, because that's what it was. He said this thing made some kind of noise when it looked to the left of him. Then this thing turned around and looked at them again. This thing pissed because it got shot. He said this thing started walking again. He said, man, saying in his mind, yo, I don't know if I can kill it, but if I have to, I'm going to try. So he said he shoots again. Boom! He said this time when he shoot it, he said it hit it in his thigh. On the left side, he hits it in his thigh. So this thing stopped. And he said this thing did it again. It looked down. Like it's saying, this man done shot me. Said this thing ain't dumb. Said this thing is smart. So it looked down, and it looked back up, and it looked at him. Now, where this thing made that call at, whatever it was, a cry for help, on the left-hand side of it, he said they looks over there, and they see two of them, two more, on the opposite side of this pond, two more. Now, when they look over there and he see them, they on all fours at this time. He say this thing makes that sound again. He said then these other two just rose up on all fours and stood up on two legs. He said they rose up and they looked over there in that direction. They started walking on the opposite side of that pond, coming up. Now, like I told you, that pond is big, but the steps they take, it probably wasn't going to take them that long to get around there, but they never waited to see all that. So they walking in that direction of the pond to go up the opposite way to come around. So he tells Bob, go and start the four-wheeler. Start mine too. So Bob goes. He starts the four-wheeler. Now this first creature, it ain't moving. It's still standing there. But he still got that .357 aimed at it. But this Dogman is pissed because it got shot. And he say these things, like I said, he said these things is not dumb and smart. Because where he got shot at, he said it messed his head up. It looked in that direction. So he said, after Bob get the four-wheeler started, because he said, we leaving everything. We're not taking nothing. We just going to get on these four-wheelers and we going to go. He said he's backing up, to get on the four-wheeler. So this thing just standing there. But it's growling at him. This thing pissed. It's growling at him. So once he gets to where his four-wheeler at, he get on. But he still got the gun on him. Now, mind you, they already started up. So they started to pull off slow. But he looking back. Because I told you that trail trail real big coming in. Anyway, they got a big trail. So he's driving slow, but he looking back and he got the gun on this creature. He say, this thing just leaped up where it came from, up there where the brush at. It just leaped up there. When it got up there, he said it dropped down to all fours. Now, mind you, they say now they going back towards the house. And the four-wheeler is kind of loud. He say, but these was loud up. He say they was coming through them woods, tearing them trees up, knocking down. He say they coming, and he know they coming. So they get to the back of the guy's property, you know, coming out the trail, going over there, and they cross it. He say when they get off, they turn around and look. They see them two that they seen on the opposite side of the pond. So I asked them, because it's not that far. That trail that they took, it ain't that far to the back of the house where they had parked them four-wheelers at. I say, well, what did they look like? He say, they was the same color. They was black. He said, one of them had like patches of gray in it, but they had the long snouts. They had the broad shoulders. They could see the arms. They could see black nails, the bent back legs. He said both of them had tails. So they could see the tail. They both of them had tails. He said now, while they standing there, he say this other one was coming up the trail. The trail that they just came out. This other one was coming up the trail. They could see it because the trail is really right there where they was coming out to park their four-wheeler. Now they see this thing. They say this thing was coming up on all fours. They said that it's like it was galloping. It's like it was leaving the ground with all fours, the arms and the hands, all of them would come up at the same time. But he said they had like a funny, like it was up and down. It was like a funny way. They said this thing was running on all fours. He said, but it was running up there fast. They could see it. Said, and this thing stayed down on all fours. He said, man, when he looked at this thing, when it was down on all fours, Vic, it looked straight up out of a horror movie. He said this thing was huge. And he said it set up high. He said their front was up high, too. And he said they just standing there. They just standing there and look at him. I say, well, did you try to shoot at him or anything like that? He said, man, that was three of them. We sure wasn't going to shoot at them because we didn't know what was going to happen. I said, do you think that was the first one that you shot? He said, man, tell you the truth, Mom. He said, I don't even know. He said, because the way this thing was running, it was running like nothing hit it in that shoulder or that leg. He said, it's like this thing was running like it didn't feel nothing. And I said, well, did any features stand out to you to tell you that it probably could have been that one? He said, I don't think that was it. Because that thing was huge. He said, now the one that I shot, that was big too. But he said, it's just the way this thing was on all fours, just looking over there. He said, this thing was huge. He said, his head was just wide. He said, that first one had a wide head too, but he said, this one, he said, this thing was definitely huge. He said, he don't know if that was the leader of them. He said, but this thing was real big. He said, but these things, he said they stood there for about 5-6 minutes, like they just staring at him, just looking. He said, and after those 6 minutes was up, he said the one that was down on all fours turned around and it started walking. It didn't run. He said it started walking. He said then the other two just turned around and it just started walking. He said now when the two turned around, he said he could see right there. He said on one of them, he said the back of it, up where that neck at, they really got a neck, but right there though, where that humpy at, he said that thing had a lot of hair right there. Like what, I guess what a lion would have. He said up there, he said that was thick. He said that had a lot of hair. Now, another thing that Bob told me, Bob said that he got an uncle that worked for the sheriff department. So he was telling his buddy, people who own that property, he said, man, did did you have any idea that these things was on your property like that? I said, man, that's my first time seeing them. We said, well, I'm going to go holler at my uncle, and I'm going to ask him, what should you do? So he says he goes sees his uncle, who's on the police force. And he told him, he said, they got something on their property that really shouldn't be there. I asked him, what was it? He said that they got dogs that could stand up on 2 feet and walk and take bullets like it ain't nothing. And he said, and these is exact words, he said his uncle told him, oh, he ain't the first one. He said that his uncle said that they have gotten a lot of people who came forth and said they've been seeing what some people call them down there walking dogs. He said they done got a lot of people called for that like that. And he was asking them to say, well, what should they do? He said, it's nothing you can do. Leave it alone. You don't bother them, they ain't gonna bother you. I mean, this uncle had told him, he said, we've been through them things was down here. But his uncle never had got a sighting before, though. But he said a lot of people done called in about them walking black dogs. So they have got a lot of people down there that called in about them things. And I had talked to the guy after I got the sightings from him, and I asked him, I said, so have you been fishing lately on your property, or have you seen any of them since then? He said, no, he haven't seen none. He said, but on several occasions at nighttime, he said that he could see eye shine in that tree line. He said he didn't know what it was, but he said he could see eye shine in that tree line. Red eye shine and yellow eye shine. He said, but I'm pretty sure that probably was those things. He said because the eye shine was too far up for it to be a small critter, a small animal that's usually indigenous to the area. But he said, yeah, he has seen eye shine on several occasions. But as far as running into them again, no, he said he haven't run into them no more. Like I said before, the guy Dave, he's been doing a lot of groundwork, so he introduced me to this person. So once I talked to her, because it took about a week or two for her to come forward and tell me her story. Her name is Dee. She's from West Virginia. She's a single mother. She got one little girl. She said she loved the outdoors. She liked to take walks, nature walks. So she decided one weekend, since she didn't have a daughter, she took her daughter over to her mom's house. So she said, since she was by herself, just her, and she had a little dog. I think she had like a little Shih Tzu. So she said she would take them for a walk. So she woke up one morning, got herself together, ate breakfast, got her dog, and she headed on out. Now, about a mile from her house, because she usually walk, it's like a little trail that she usually takes. So she walking down the street wearing a dog. She got him on a little leash, the kind that can stretch out. So as she walking, it started to like drizzle. So she thinking in her mind, should she turn back and go back in the house, or she should continue? So she said since it wasn't raining hard, she said she would continue. So she started walking. So after about 20, 25 minutes, she said she gets to the trail. So she walks up in the trail. Her little puppy, he's running around trying like he just want to get off the string. So she unleashed the string and let him go. He goes and relieves himself. So she walking up around through the trail. So as she's walking up, her little puppy is in front of her. But as the puppy gets probably about 15 feet in front of her, he stops. Little puppy ears go straight up. So she called him back, say, what's wrong? What's wrong? Come here, come here. Little puppy won't move. It just stuck there. It's like it's froze. So she walks up there to it and she picked him up. She said, what's wrong? What's wrong? Everything will be all right. What's wrong? So his ears just go straight down and he started whimpering. And so she said, what's wrong? There's nothing out here. You okay? So she started walking some more. She got the puppy in her hand now. So they started walking up some more. So as she walking, she heard this noise, like a scratching sound noise, like something scratching on the side of a tree. she turning around looking, trying to see what direction it's in, because she can't really tell where it's coming from. So she stopped. So she said when she stopped, she said she looked about 30 yards to her right. And she said she could see something. She said a dark figure behind this tree. She could see like part of his shoulder and his arm. So she looked and she was like, what is that? So she starts to turn around and then head back down the path. So as she's going down the path, she hears something walking behind her. So now she's trying to pick up her pace and get back down to the edge of the road. So when she gets to the edge of the road, she crosses over on the other side of the street from where the trail was at. So she turns around. When she turns around, she says she can see this thing she's seen behind the tree because it's about 5 feet up in the tree line. So I asked her, what was it? She said, what she saw looked like a dove, but it was standing upright. And she described how it looked. She said that it was black, but she said it had like some brown in it, like it was black and brown, or maybe that's how it looked because of the light. So she said that it had the pointy ears, it had the snout, it had the long arms, the hands, and it had the claws. So as she looking at this thing, because it's still staring at her, she said she started walking back towards her house. But as she walking back to her house, mind you, this thing is like paralleling in the tree line, going towards the direction she's going. So after she walked, I don't know, probably for about 5 or 10 minutes, she said it's a car coming up from the other side of the way. So as the car get close, she waves the car down. So the lady stopped. She, Rolanda, what's wrong? She said, can I please get in your car? Can I please get in your car? Can you take me home? She got in the car. She could take her home. Now, she got her puppy on her lap. The dog is frightened. I mean, this puppy is just shaking. So the lady asking her, she said, what's wrong? She said, nothing. It's nothing wrong. It's nothing wrong. She said, but baby, you shaking. Just, what's wrong? She said, I don't even know if I should even talk about it. I seen something that I thought shouldn't even be out here. So the lady asked her, she said, well, what was it? What did you see? She said, never mind. So the lady took her home. She went in the house. She got on the phone. She called her mother. Her mother asked her what's wrong. She hysterical and all that. She said, Ma, I need to talk to you. And her mother said, what? She said, Ma, I went to walk the dog this morning. And when we got up in the path that I usually take, she said, I saw something. And she said, what did you see? She said, Ma, I seen this some kind of creature. It looked like a dog, like a human dog thing, standing up in the tree line. And when I left out, it was right there about 5 or 10 feet up in the trail. And then it paralleled me walking in the woods when I was walking back towards my house before I got a ride. And she said, baby, you sure you didn't see nothing else? She said, Ma, that's why I didn't want to tell you. So she hung up with her mother. She let it go. So when I talked to this lady, I mean, like I said, she's still in shock about this encounter she had. And she said that she don't even go that way. She don't even deal with the woods. She said that she got to walk her dog from now on. She said she'll go to like a place where public at and walk her dog or whatever. So that's that encounter right there. Now, I got another counter. It's coming out of Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. And this lady name is Miss J. Now, Miss J, it was during the time that the death of her mother. So she said that she would get up, go, and put some flowers on her mother's grave. So she wake up the day that she gonna go and put the flowers on her mother's grave. She get herself together. She jump in the car. So she go to the store, get her mother some flowers that she gonna put on her grave and everything. But when she leave out the store and she sat back in the car, she contemplating because now it's bringing back memories and a lot of pain because she don't really want to go to no cemetery because she said she ain't been there in years. So she made it up in her mind that she gonna go and she gonna put these flowers on her mother's grave because she miss her and it's the least she can do. But what she did before she left, she called her sister and asked her sister, would she make it down there to put flowers on Mama's grave. And she said, no, I don't think I'm going to make it, so you might have to go by yourself. She hung up with her, so she gets back in her car, and she goes and visits her mother's gravesite. Now, this gravesite where her mother was at, she said it's not like the real big kind of gravesite where it's really gated in and all that, and they got the big buildings and everything and the mausoleums and like that. It's like a little small gravesite. But on the other side of that gravesite, she said it's like wooded area. So she parks, she get out her car, she goes in there, goes over to her mother's little plaque that's in the ground, and she put the flowers on there. Sat there, talked to her mother for a while. She let her know how much she missed her. So, says that she's sitting there, she started to cry and tear up. And she said while she was sitting there, she said that her phone had rung. She looked at the call, and she seen that it was her sister calling her back. She don't answer the phone, though. She ignores it. So, she said after about a few more minutes, after she said her goodbyes and everything, she gets up and she started walking back toward her car so she can leave out. Now, as she going to leave out, now remind you, I said it was tree lines in the back of that graveyard because it's not very big. It's not a large, so it's tree lines in the back of there. But on the right, as she's coming out, it's a few trees over there too. And it is a couple of big headstones over that side toward the right. So she walking back out to go to her car. So as she walking to her car, she sees something out her peripheral vision, out the corner of her eye. She just take a glance. So she said over there where one of these large headstones was at, she said she seen something pop up and then drop back down. She said it was a dark figure, but she couldn't really see what it was because she just seen a quick up and down. So she paid no attention. She keeps walking. So she walks over, she goes out, and she gets to her car. So she right there on the passenger side. So she looks back over there again. Now this time when she look over there, she see the same thing that she seen before, but she didn't really get a good look at it. She said this thing was down on all fours, but she didn't know what it was. She just thought it might have been a stray dove. But she looking, she was like, this thing is too big to be a dove. And then she said it was, real bulky in the way that it was, the stance that it was standing in. It was like high up top. It was real broady down on all fours. And this thing was just, she said it just kept looking at it and staring at her. So as she looking at it, on the other side of that, it's like more big headstones. So she said this thing just shot fast past these headstones. And it went all the way down to the last one, the other end. Now, mind you, she said when this thing got down to the other end of that last headstone, she said this thing, she don't know what it was. She said this thing was the width on it, the length on it, because it was still on all fours. Part of it was out in front of the headstone, and the back end was hanging out on the other end. She said that end was low. She said this thing did have a tail. That's why she said she thought it was a dove. She said this thing did have a tail. So she said she looking at this thing. She said now she can hear this thing start to growl, like a low growl. So she walking around towards the driver's side now. So she opens the door. She said when she opened this door, she said, because she's not that far from where this thing was at. Probably about, I'm going to say, 30, 40 feet, which not real far. She said when she opened that door, and that sound, it make that beep, beep, and the sound when you open the door like an alarm thing. So when she opened that door, that's when she heard this pop sound that this thing made. So she said then this thing stood up. And she said she know that headstone that was over there because she had walked through that whole graveyard. She said that headstone would stand at least 5 feet up. She said when this thing stood up, she said this thing towered over this headstone. So you figuring this thing was probably 7.5 to 8 feet tall. She said this thing was huge. She said this thing was big. She said it had broad shoulders. This thing had long arms. It had the snout. She said, but the snout wasn't real long like you would see on like a German Shepherd or something like that, or a Dogman Pinscher. It wasn't long like that. She said, but it had a thick snout. She said it had the pointy ears, and she said it was like twitching its ears. And this thing looking at her, she seen the hands and everything. She said it had long hands with black claws. She said, now this thing was like a brownish color. It wasn't black. It was like a brownish color. She said, but Bob was standing right there by that tombstone thing. She said she seen one of the legs. So she knew that the leg that she seen was a canine type leg, because she seen that. So she knew he had the bent back legs and everything. So she said when this thing was looking at her, it's like it was like it had a smile on its face, like a grin. And it just stared at her. And she said, it's like when this thing stared at her, man, it's like this thing, it looked straight through you. She said she'd never been so scared in her life. She said she jumped in a car, started her car up, started driving. But as she driving, she said she knows she was driving kind of fast, but she said everything was like slowing down. And as she was driving, she made quick eye contact again with this creature. And she just looked at this thing as she was driving past, and she just said she just got out there. And she said she ain't been back out to her mother's gravesite to put no flowers on her grave. And she said this happened 5 years ago, so she said she haven't been back out there to put no flowers on her grave since. So when I talked to her, I asked her, I said, so do you know what you saw? She said, I don't know what it was, and I explained to her about these cryptids out here that's called Dogman. And I gave her a little information on it, so hopefully she'll take it in mind and take it in her heart, and she'll look up some of these things on YouTube. And I told her about the Dogman channel, so hopefully she'll check that out. And I keep in contact with her every now and then to call her to make sure that she all right. So that's that encounter. And like I said, that happened in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. Now, this other encounter that I got, this one come out of Pennsylvania. And Dave, the guy that helped me get these encounters, he put me in contact with these people right here. Their names is Torrey and Josh. Torrey is from Pennsylvania when Josh was just going up there to visit him. And they said that they were supposed to meet up at the Lawn Hill State Park. So Josh goes up there on one weekend so he can meet up with his friend Torrey. So they meet up. So they go to this park. Torrey was telling them about this place where they was going to go at. So when they goes up in this park, it's the trail that they said that they had took. Now, when you come in down this trail, they said it's wooded. When I say they say it's wooded all around. So as they going through this trail, they come out at the tip of it. Now, when they come out at the tip, they said it's nothing but boulders out there. Big boulders. I mean, it's a lot of boulders. And on the right side of them, it's like a small stream. And this stream goes all the way around this tree line. And when it gets on the other side, on the left-hand side, it's some more boulders that runs across that'll take you all the way on the other side. Now, in the middle of this stream that goes around, it's like a little marsh area. It looks like a little island, they say. So they say when they go up there, they walk to the left. Now, to the left, it's like a rock formation, they said. So these is like steps that come down. So you can walk up and you can walk down. But mind you, on the right-hand side of them, it's water running off of them. So as you coming down, you got to be careful. But they on the other side of the end. So when where the stream starts at and the big gravel rocks, they walks over that side, over there where the stream running down. So they got to be careful. Now, mind you, this stream is real small, they say. So Josh and Torrey, they goes on the other side by the steps. Now, when you come down the steps, they say, and you coming down, like I said, it's a little small stream there, so they walk
on the side of this little stream. The water's not real deep. It's like real shallow water. So they walks over there. You know, it's a little spot over there where Torrey usually go at and sit. So him and Josh, they sitting over there. Now, behind them, probably about 20 feet, it's these, I can't remember what kind of trees they say, but it's some big trees. And it's like they've been, I mean, you can look at something and tell when wind knocks something over, but it's like something just pushed these straight over. And it's like 3 big trees just sitting over. Like, they didn't want somebody to go down that way. Now, further down there, that stream go further back, they say. So they said they sitting there, they talking. So in the back of them, Torrey hears something like thump in the water. So Torrey asked Josh, he said, Josh, did you hear that? Josh was like, yeah, I heard it. You know what I mean? It might have been a rock or something. He said, man, there ain't no rock falling in the water like that, because it was like a thump sound. So they don't pay no attention. So as they sitting there, they hear something walking bipedal in the water. Like it's walking in the water. So they looking back there. But mind you, back there, now this is like in the afternoon, they say. And when you look back there, it's so thick back there, it's like it's dark because there's so much foliage and trees back there, man. You can't really hardly see nothing. So they looking back there, they hear these steps in the water, but they don't see nothing. So they ain't paying no attention. They say, man, I don't know, maybe it's a little critter or something like that, you know, a raccoon or something, or a squirrel, I don't know. So they don't pay no attention. So they sit there and they talking. So Torrey was asking Josh how his job going and everything. So they hear it again. This thing is still walking. So now they get up. They walks out in the stream, because like I say, where they at, that water's not deep. So they walks out in that little small stream. So they look. And when they look back there, when I said this thing back there was dark, you can't hardly see nothing. But now they look back there, they said now they see some glowing eyes. And they said these eyes was orange and they was sitting up high. So they looking, but they can't really see nothing but the eyes because it's dark back there. So they looking, so they like, they can't be no eyes. Now they trying to think of something playing tricks in their mind like it's a firefly or something like that. No, that's not no firefly, nothing like that. These eyes was huge, like the size of a golf ball. That's how big they was. So they said they standing there, so now they taking easy baby steps walking forward to see what this thing is. Now they said they can see these eyes move to the right. They can still hear these sounds in the water though. This thing is walking, it's bipedal. So they know it's on 2 feet. So they looking. Now these eyes start coming towards them. So they stop. They looking. So now they can start seeing this silhouette. It's like coming right towards them, a silhouette. Now, right where I told you where those trees was at, that's where this thing stopped at. They said this thing stopped right there, put his hands up on that tree. They said his hands were so big that they hung over the other side. They could see the claws on this thing. They said this thing had like a smirk on its face. They said they seen the teeth on these things. This thing had some long canine teeth. They said it looked just like a dog in the face. They said this thing was looking at them. It said it had the snout. They could see the ears up. They said because when it leaned over them trees right there, them large logs, they said it was kind of hunched over tip, like it had like a hump in its back or something. They said this thing had some big shoulders. They said the chest, the pectoral muscles, they said they seen all that. Now underneath, like where the logs at, they said they could see that this thing had canine legs. They couldn't see the feet because the feet was in the water. But other than that, they seen the arms, they seen everything. So now they in shock. You're like, what the is that? Now me say, I don't know what it is, but we need to get out of here. So they said they start backing up. So they said this thing, as they backing up, they said this thing start growling at them. But it wasn't a loud growl, but it was like a growl where they said that they could feel the vibration of this thing. Like they could feel it in their chest. So as they walking backwards, this thing take one of his claws and it starts scratching on that log, scratching on the log. So right where I told you where them steps was at, because they didn't go on the other side, where them steps was at, they came down, it was made out of rock formation. They said they walked up there. Now, when they get to the top, they turn around and they look again. When they look back, they said that thing was still standing right there at that tree stump. So they looking at this thing, but they say this thing takes his arms off the tree, and this thing, it leaped literally on the other side of where they was before they walked up them brick steps. It leaped. I mean, they said this thing jumped high. It leaped, splashed in the water, splash, and then it started walking towards them. So now they turn around, they start running. Now, mind you, they got to go all the way around the other side to get back on the trail to where they was at, all the way on the other side. So they running. They say that they running where them brick thing steps at. They say this thing up on the top of the thing now. Now, the way that they ran, this thing is trying to parallel them, running through the woods. This thing ain't having no problem running through the woods, they said. Now, mind you, Torrey has a gun on him. He don't pulls it out. They still running, but this thing is still paralleling. So Josh tell him, Josh say, man, don't you got a gun on you? He said, yeah. Said, man, you need to give it a warning shot or something. So he said they stopped. He said as soon as they stopped, this creature stopped. And it stared at him. So he pulled out his gun. Boom, boom. Fired 2 warning shots. But this thing, it's just like it's still standing there looking at him. So Torrey said he points this thing over in the direction of this creature. Now, he said he don't want to really shoot this thing because he don't know because he said he had a 40 caliber. He said he don't know what this thing going to do if he shoot it and they don't kill him. But he said when he pointed this thing at this creature, he said this creature, it moved to the side. It didn't stay in the spot where he aimed that gun at. They walking, trying to get back on that other part. He still got the gun on this thing, but every time he put the gun on it, this thing would move. So he said they finally get around to the other side of this trail thing. So they leave out the park. They go back to Torrey house. So George said, man, what do y'all got up here in these woods? He said, man, to tell you the truth, that's my first time that I ever seen something like that. So George told him, he said, man, I can't do this. Now, I can't even come up here no more. I don't know what was that. Some kind of dove hybrid thing, alien. Because they didn't know what it was. Like I said, they know this thing was massive. It had the shoulders, the ears, the snout. When they seen them long canines, they said that the teeth looked like they was white. Didn't have no discolor to them and nothing. Said them things was white. But he said when that thing stood up right there where that log was at, he said that thing had to be tall because the logs was a nice little bit pushed over. So it wasn't like it was real low to the ground. It was probably about 4 feet off the ground if you was to put something. He said, and this thing, you could see like almost to this thing thighs. That's why they say they knew it had to be big. So, like I said, that was their encounter. So, this next encounter, this happened in North Carolina too. And this was in Lake Norman, and this was the park area too. And, I had got in contact with this guy, Jesse. Jesse said that he liked to go out and he liked to watch wildlife. So he said when he get out to this park, he said we walking the trail, we looking at this wildlife. So he goes down there. He said it's like a big old lake down there. So he go down there. We said to why down there. He said a couple of days they came down to have a drink. So he walking around because it's like a little trail you can walk to go around and go on the other side of this lake. So he decided, I'm going to walk and I'm going to go over on that side. So he walking to go around and go on the other side of this lake. So when he walking, we noticed there's some guys in a boat. So I guess they was out there fishing or whatever. So they asked Jesse, hollered out to him. They said, hey, you going fishing? When Jesse was like, no, I'm just walking, just sightseeing. So one of the guys in the boat, he told Jesse, they like old timers. They said, why you out here? Just be careful and watch your surroundings. He said, what you mean by that? So his friend said, he don't mean no harm. He just talking out the side of his neck. So he said, young buddy, why you out here? Just watch your surroundings. So Jesse goes on the other side. Now he said when he get on the other side, he said he walks up this trail. And when he get up this trail, it's like an embankment and it goes up. And then he said it goes down when you cross over, and it goes down on the other side like it goes down in a ravine or a gorge, something like that. So he said he walking up there looking down. So he say when he looking down, he said it's an area down there that's got it's like he said they went in there, took some trees out or something down there. So he said he walking, but he looking down there while he walking in that spot right there. So now coming up to where he at, he said that's probably like a 30 or 40 foot drop down into that ravine, that gorge, and then it goes out into that area where he said there wasn't no trees at, but it's trees all around on the other side, like something went in there and they cut it out. So he said as he walking, he said he looking down. He said when he looked down, he said he could see something like it's darting through the trees, going through tree to tree. But he don't know what it is. He don't know if it's a deer or a coyote or whatever. But he's still looking down at. So this thing's still darting, going through tree to tree. Now, the direction that Jesse's going up the other side, you can go, and it's like a little embankment that you can go down, or you could come up. That's probably about 25 feet in front of him. So this thing is darting through the trees like it's going towards that little path right there. So he said as he walking, when he get like 10, 15 feet from where that little path to go down to come up, he said he looking, he can see that this thing shoots up that little path in the direction to where he's coming at. So he stopped because he don't know what it is now. So when he stopped, he started to walk backwards. So as he said, as he walking backwards, he said this thing steps out on the path that he was taking right there with the ravine at the gorge, but he comes up down the other end of this little dirt path. It comes up and it comes out and it stands in the middle of the path where he was at. And he said when this thing stepped out and stood on that path, he said he liked on himself. He said his heart like to stop. He don't know what that thing was. He said this thing stepped out on his path. And when it stepped out on its path, he said that when it stepped out on there, man, it's like he can hear the sounds that this thing made with his feet because it was so heavy and so big. He said this thing just stood in the path, man. He said, and when it was breathing, it's like it was breathing hard, inhaling, exhaling hard, like it was trying to catch his breath. But he said he could see the chest on this thing inflating in and out. He said this thing had human-like shoulders. He said it had the upper body of a man, and down the bottom it had the canine legs. It had the pointy ears. It had the snout. He said this thing looked like something that should be on TV, not in the woods. So he said he's still walking backwards, but he watching this thing. He said, and as he walking backwards, when he walked, he said it was thick, the part where he walking at, and he almost slipped and he fell. And when he tried to catch his balance, he said this thing took a few steps, but he said it stopped. So he said he's still walking backwards. So he's trying to get back to where he came from so he can go all the way around on the other side to where he started to come in at. So he turns around. He said he started running. But he looked back. He said this thing is not running after him. So he turns around, he's running again. So as he's running and he gets down to where he started at to go up the embankment, he coming down that side so he can go around the other way. He said now when he turned around, though, he said he see this creature at the top of the embankment that he just came down. He running around to get all the way on the other side, and the two guys in the boat, they yell out to him, son, you all right? You all right? He said, get out of here, something in the woods. I don't know what it is. So the old man said, I told you to be careful. I told you to be careful to watch your surroundings. You got to watch where you go at in these woods. So mind you, the old men, they had guns on the boat too. So while Jesse said they was running, Jesse pointed up in the direction, said that thing is up there on the tree line. Can ready come down the little embankment where the ravine at. So the old men, they just started shooting over in that direction. They was from the Wild Wild West or something. So mind you, Jesse get round on the other side, man. So he leaves and go. His head is still messed up to this day. When I talk to him, he don't want to go sightseeing, hiking no more. It's like when people see these things, man, it do something to them because they don't want to do the things that they used to. And that's one thing I noticed about these cryptids, man. And it makes no sense, man, that the stuff that they do to people and what they can do on people's minds. But like I said, everybody that I get these encounters from, man, I always keep in contact with. Now, this other encounter, this comes from the little girl that I was telling you about, and this one comes out of Virginia too. It took me a couple of weeks to get this encounter because, like I said, this girl, she was young. Her mother really didn't want her to say nothing about it, but I guess after Dave talked to the people for a while, he let her know that I was a good guy, that I had permission for her daughter to tell me her accounts of this story and for me not to use her name. And the mother only said that it was in Virginia. She don't want to say because it's her parents' place. And after this encounter happened, she said she don't think she never taken her back down there again. Now, this happened in 2015, and this was in Virginia. Now, the name that I'm using in here, because people don't want you to use a name sometimes, is Ty G. So her mother was taking her to Virginia to see her grandparents. So they get to Virginia. Now, when they get down in Virginia, Ty J has another little cousin there, and her name is, I'm going to use Talia. So they down there, they meet up, because that's their first time seeing each other, different sides of the family. So they in the house, and they talking, so by they got there, it was kind of late, so Talia tells Ty J, tomorrow we'll go outside and we'll play. We'll have some fun. I can show you around. Because that ain't Talia's first time visiting the grandmother down there. But it's Ty J first time down there. So Talia basically said that she knew her way around and everything like that. So the next day, they get up. Ty J, Talia, they say they eat. So Talia say, let's go outside and play because on the grandparents' property, they had little swing set and stuff like that because they had a nice piece of land down there, little swing set. So she said they go outside and they was playing on a swing set. So Talia was telling Ty J, yeah, I'm bored. It ain't really nothing to do. She said, let's go for a walk. So Ty J kept telling Talia, I don't want to go for no walk. I ain't from down here. I don't know where I'm going at. So Talia say, I've been down here. I know where to go. I know where we can go and have some fun. We can go and pick mushrooms and stuff like that. You know, this is something that Ty J never did, but Talia had. So she talks Ty J into going with her, walking, picking flowers and mushrooms and stuff like that. So she goes and they walk about, I'm going to say, 100 feet on their parents' property to where this little tree line start like a little path. So Ty J stops at the path and Talia say, what's wrong? She say, I don't want to go up in them woods. But Talia, you know, talked to end up walking up in there anyway. So they walking and they talking and Talia was asking Ty J, you know, how it is in the city. When Ty J was telling her how it was, you had more fun than down here. So Talia said, well, you'll have fun down here. So they walking. When you go in the path that Ty J said they was on, they said it started out straight, but then it would curve and goes around and it would straighten out again. It would go like a straight line and then it would curve like an L. So they said they walked down that. So they said as they was walking, Ty J said that she had smelled something, but she didn't know what it was. She said something stinks. And Talia was like, well, it might be something dead out here. You know, I smell that stuff all the time. Now, mind you, Talia said she had smelled this kind of smell, but she said she never seen nothing. So she said that it might be something dead. You know, Ty J was like, well, this stink. I want to go back. So she was like, no, come on, let's walk. Come on. We're going to just walk a little bit more, and then we're going to turn it back around. Now, they walked probably about a couple more minutes. Now, Ty J said this smell was strong. She said it was just irritating her face. Her eyes was burning and stuff like that. She said it was so strong. Urine, and it smelled like something dead and all that. It just smelled like somebody went to use the bathroom. So Ty J said that she heard a noise up to the left, up in the tree line on the left-hand side. So Ty J looking over in that direction, and Talia said, well, what's wrong? She got silence, like she wouldn't say nothing. Now, mind you, they in the middle of this path, but they got to go down and they got to make a bend. So Talia started walking backwards, but Ty J ain't moving. So she asked again, Ty J, what? She said, look over there. So Talia said when she looked over there, she just turned around. She ran. She left. Ty J said she was froze. She said she couldn't move because of what she saw. So she's standing there, stuck. She said she urinated on herself and everything. She said this thing was standing over by the tree. She said this thing looked like a big dove. She said, but this thing was standing upright. It was standing up. And she said she know doves can't stand up. She said doves can't stand up on no 2 feet like that. She said it looked like it had features like us, like a human. This how she describing this thing. She said it had the head of a dove, but it was just standing up on 2 feet. She said this thing was black. She said this thing had long arms. She said because it had one of its arms wrapped around a tree. The right arm wrapped around the tree. The other arm was hanging down, palms hanging in front of his body. So she said she can't move. Now, mind you, Talia, she done gone back to the house, but as I get into the story, Talia went back to go get her grandfather for her to come back up there. So as Ty J still standing there, this thing started growling at her, like a low growl. I don't know, and I can't say what's on a person's mind. She said this thing was talking to her mind like it was saying, don't move, I ain't gonna hurt you. She said she hearing this thing say this stuff to her, but this thing mouth ain't moving. She said it's like she can clearly hear the voice saying this, don't move, I ain't gonna hurt you. And she said she just stood there because she was in shock. She can't move, she just stood there. Now, Talia went back to the house, so she went back to go get her grandfather. So her grandfather, they calling out, Ty J, where you at? You all right? So they get up there, they see her standing there in the middle of the thing. So when the grandfather get up there, she grabs her, and Ty J just starts screaming, yelling, ah! Turn around, start hitting on her grandfather. What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? She said, I won't go home. He said, ask him what's wrong. So Talia told the grandfather, Daddy, we seen something over there in the woods. Now, mind you, Talia didn't really get a good sight of this thing, but she knew it was something over there standing by that tree. She said it was something over there by the tree. So they get back to the house. So Ty J, they in the room, and she crying. She asking Talia, why you leave me? She said, because I saw that thing over by the tree. So I turned around and ran. I thought you would come with me. She said, but I went back to go get Grandpa so he'd come up there and get you. She's sitting there and she crying now. When I talked to the mother, that's really why she didn't really want her daughter to tell this encounter, man, because of the stuff that she went through. Man, this girl is still traumatized by this, man. Like I said, it took me about a month for me to get this encounter from this little kid, man. But one thing I want to say, man, when she was telling me encounter, to her best of her knowledge, man, she stood strong throughout it all. She said she still had nightmares about this thing. She said she could still hear this thing saying, don't run, don't move, and all that stuff like that. But mother said she not taking her back down there no more. So I told the mother, I said, you should listen to these couple of things about these things because they are out here. They're called Dogmen. They all cryptids. They all roaming these woods out here. And not just here in Virginia, they in all states. They everywhere, even in Canada. You know what I mean? They've been seen in Russia. I was telling her stuff like that. And I had just talked to her a couple of days ago, and I told her I'm going to tell her story on the radio. Gave me a permission, and I always told her that I would keep in contact with her to make sure that the daughter is doing all right, because should nobody have to see these things out here, man. It's just crazy, man. It really don't make no sense, man, that a child got to go through this. I mean, she's probably going to be traumatized for the rest of her life, man. And, you know, my heart go out to her because when she was telling me the story before, tears in my eyes. Even when I had my encounter, even though I'm older, that thing still puts fear in me to this day. I don't want to see that no more. I know that. I got one more encounter. This one come out of North Carolina. This person that I talked to, it's a professional person. So not going to use their name like I always say, but they was kind enough to share their encounter with me. So here go about their encounter. This encounter happened in 1999. It was in the state of North Carolina. And this lady, she got a good job, so I'm not going to say her profession. This name that I'm going to use is Rose. Rose said that she was home one day, just sitting in the house. She lived by herself. She's a widow, so she don't really have too much family, put it that way. So Rose said she was home one day, and every night she liked to go sit out on her front porch. So where her house is at, it sit on the road. But you might see one house, and probably like a quarter mile, you might see another house. And across the street on the other side, it's a tree line. It's number wooded area. Number woods on that side, across from my house. So she said she used to come out and sit on the front porch every night, just sit out there and listen to the radio, just to get a peace of mind. So she said this particular night, she goes out there, she sit on the front porch. So turn the front porch light on. She got a little chair that she got. She sit out there. But she said every time she goes on the front porch, she leaves her door cracked. So when she get up, she just walk back in and shut her door. So she said she's sitting out there one night. Now, mind you, from my house to the edge of the road, it's not that far. It's probably like 30 feet. Then probably another 15 feet on the other side to the tree line, to where the woods start at. So she said she out on the porch and she sitting down. And it's probably around, because she said the sun was getting ready to go down, but it still was kind of light outside, but the sun was going down. So she's sitting out and she's sitting on the front porch. So she listened to the radio. So she said she started hearing something was howling, making a howl noise. She looking, she heard this thing howl. But she said it wasn't like on TV you might hear like a wolf or a coyote howl. She said this thing howled. She said it was a long howl, and it was loud. It wasn't like a little small loud. She said it was a long howl. And so she was sitting on her porch to see coyotes or whatever. That's what she's thinking in her mind. So she's sitting there. So she said she started hearing noise on the other side of the street of her house. I told you, she right there by the tree line, so she's not that far from it. she can hear like sticks breaking, crack, crack. So she looking over in that direction. So like I tell you, the sun was going down. So when she looked over in that direction, in front of our house, probably 10 feet to the left, she said something gave her eyesight over that way. So she looking over that way. So she said when she look over that way, she said she can see something standing up by a tree. It's standing up. See the silhouette of it. But she can see this figure because, like I said, the sun wasn't really gone down yet. She could see this figure. She said this thing had his arm up on a tree, wrapped like around a branch, like it had like his arm and his hand wrapped around a branch. So she said she looking over there. She looking, you know, it's a dark figure because she trying to really focus in to get what this thing is standing up here. Because she said this thing was tall. She said it couldn't be a person because it was too dark. Then she see these glowing eyes. She said her eyes was yellow. The eyes was yellow. And she said they was big. She see the eyes and they glowing. So she looking. And oh my God, what the hell is that? So she said she seen this thing bring that arm down that it had on the branch. It brought it down and put it by its side. She said this thing took a few steps to the edge of the tree line, to where the tree line started at. Not where the edge of the road started at. She said this thing stood there. So while she's sitting on her porch, she said this thing, she don't know what it did. She don't know if this thing had springs or not. She said this thing jumped from that side of the tree line over there on her side to where she live at. Now, mind you, I told you that tree line where she was looking at in front of her house, this thing was 10 feet to the left. It jumps over on her side. Jumps on the other side, and this thing running down, like on the side of her house. On the side of her house, it runs down, runs straight through the side, like it's going around back. She said she jumped up, went in the house, locked the door, slammed the door, put the chains on it, she bolted and everything. She went in the house, she said she got her shotgun, she keep a shotgun in the house. So she said she ran to the back. She went to the back to look out, to share the window, the back. She went out the back to look. So she looked. She said she could see this thing, run because there's trees behind our house too. She said she see this thing running, bipedal, running towards the other side of the tree line behind our house. So she said she cracked, lift up up the window so she can see anything. She said when she lifted up that window, she said this thing was running. It all she heard was trees, sticks breaking and everything. So this thing was running through the woods like she don't know what it was. You know what I mean? But like I asked and told her the description she gave me, she did say that this thing was canine, and did have a dove-like head because she caught a glimpse at this thing running down on the side of the house anyway, because when it's coming down, it comes through that yard right there because there's no more houses right there. It's just our house that's set right there. She said this thing did have a canine head. She said when this thing was running, she said because it was running funny, but she said this thing was, it was fast. She said it had long arms, but it ran she said it ran funny, like it was slow, like it was like a hop and running, some kind of, said it just ran funny. You know what I mean? It had the long arms, it had a canine head. She said she seen the ears on it. You know what I mean? She said it had the dog legs, you know what I mean? Not because I always ask these people, man, do y'all know what y'all see? You know what I mean? Because I'm not going to doubt nobody or their authenticity about what they got to say or what they saw. You know what I mean? And this lady told me what she's seen, man, and every person that I deal with and I tell these encounters, man, I believe their story 100%, you know what I mean? Because like I said, though, these people ain't getting nothing out of this. You know what I mean? They ain't got to lie about nothing. Yeah, but she said this thing ran on the other side of the tree line behind our house, though. But she said it was K9. and this thing was up on, 2 feet. And she said this thing, it moved fast. It moved pretty fast, man. And that's that encounter right there. Like I always say, and I said before, my friend Dave, we put a lot of the footwork in and helping me get these encounters. And a few days ago, he had put me in contact with this guy named Gary. He a friend of his that lives in Mississippi. His friend Gary said that he was in Lincoln State Park in Wesson, Mississippi. Now, Gary is the type, he like the outdoors, he like to go walking, sightseeing. Sometimes he hunts, sometimes he fish. So one day he had went to this park doing his normal routine. He started walking, saw a couple of deers, and he said as he walked for about 10, 15 minutes, he said he had noticed he had seen 2 small red fox. So he had sat there when he had watched them for a while because he on a path and they up in the tree line. So he said as he was watching these 2 fox, he noticed that as they was walking, they kept looking back like they either heard something or they seen something. So he watching them, they still walking. So these little fox started to pick up their pace and started to move a little faster. So Gary said that he looked back to see what they was looking at or, if they seen anything, which he didn't see nothing. So he's still walking, but he's still watching those 2 fox. So he noticed that these 2 fox, as they was walking, it's like a little ravine that they had went down and they had went out of sight. So Gary, he continued to walk to the end of his path. Now, once Gary got to the end of the path where he was going to walk at, he turned around, started walking back the other way that he had came in. So Gary, he said he was walking. Then he said his phone had rung. He had answered the phone, and on the other line, it was his mother. His mother was asking him, Gary, was you going to make it over for dinner? And Gary said, yeah, Ma, I'll be over for dinner. I'm almost finishing my walk. And after I finish my walk, go home and wash, then I'll be over. So he hung up with her. Gary kept on walking. So after he walked for about 10, 15 minutes, he said that he had smelled something. Now, he said he never smelled this smell before. When he trying to figure out where it's coming from or what it was, then he said, okay, maybe it's a kill. Now, he's thinking back earlier when he saw the 2 foxes. He's thinking that maybe these 2 foxes had made a kill. So he started walking some more. Now, as he walking, Gary hears something. He hears something rubbling in the brush, like on the leaves and stuff. Now, what he hears something walking. But it wasn't like walking bipedal. It was like a walking on quads, like on all fours. So Gary said, as he walking, he looks to his right, which would be on the right side now because coming in, it was on his left. So he looked to his right, and up in the tree line, he said he sees something walking. So he looks. He thinking that it's a wolf or something. He said, no, it's not a wolf because it's too big. This thing don't see Gary. It's still walking, but it's walking on quads. It's walking on all fours. So as this thing's still walking, Gary's walking down the path, going to the same way that he came in. He's going out. So Gary looked up there again. This thing stopped. Now, when this thing stopped, it started sniffing the air. He said it turned his head to one side, turned it to the other side, and it started sniffing the air. This thing did not see Gary yet. So Gary focused in on this thing to see what it was. He said, while this thing was down on all fours, Gary said this thing was huge. He said this was big. So now he know it wasn't no wolf or nothing like that. He said the head on this thing was gigantic. He said this thing had a big head. It was wide. He said, but the way this thing was built with the front part was real bulky, like real stocky. He said the ears were straight up on this thing. He said it had a long snout. He said he could see that the back end go down. He said this thing did have a tail. He said as this thing was sniffing up in the air, he said the thing stopped and he started to walk again. So as this thing is walking again, Gary trying to pick up the pace because Gary trying to get out the entrance to the park or where he came in at. So as this thing walking, he said it was some trees that was broken down, like some debris, but these was like some nice sized trees. It looked like he said somebody put them together and stacked them like on each other, like going across. So this things get to these things where these logs was, where these big trees was. So he said when this thing got right there where the tree was, he said this thing reached up while it was down on all fours, and it put his hands on this tree or this log. He said then this thing did something he never seen, but only he's seen this on TV. He said this thing started to stand. He said when this thing stood up, it made some kind of noise, like a loud pop noise. He heard the noise and everything. Said this thing stretched one leg on the left side, then on the other side, it stretched the other leg. He said then this thing, it stood up. Now, it stood up on 2 feet. Now, God can see this thing real good. He said this thing had some wide shoulders. He said the width on this thing had to be 3.5 to 4 feet wide. He said this thing was big. Now, Guy stands about 6'6", and he know from the distance where he at and where this thing was at, he said this thing had to be 8.5 to 9 feet tall. He said this thing was humongous. So Guy is still walking. This thing still doesn't see Guy yet. So when this thing gets up on his 2 feet, he sniffs the air again. He said when he sniffed this air again, this cryptid turned his head to the right, looked over in that direction. This thing jumped over the trees that was in a tree line that was laid out. This thing jumped over the tree. He said this thing jumped like it had springs or some rocket boots or something. He said because this thing jumped far. This thing jumped, and when it landed, he said this thing ran to the right, up through the tree line, and that's when he lost sight of him. So Guy gets to the end of the path, he leaves. Guy go home, washes up, he goes over his mother's house. So he sit down, we talking to his mom. He said, Mom, I don't think I'm gonna go for my walks no more. You know, she was asking him, why, baby, why? He said, I just don't want to talk about it right now. So he said, maybe one day I'll open up and I'll tell you about it. He said, because if I tell you, I don't want you to look at me like I'm crazy or nothing. So, like I said, after I got this encounter from Guy, he said he ain't been back in the woods since, even for a walk. And he said this happened in 2003. So now I'm going to go on to my next encounter. Now, this encounter happened in Gastonia. And it happened down in the South in the Carolina. And the lady name that I'm going to use, because, like I said, I don't like using these people real names because they ask me not to. And I'm going to call her Miss B. Now, Miss B, she's the type that likes to go out and have fun. So this particular day, Miss B went with some more friends. They went out to go play bingo. So while they out playing bingo, you know, they sitting there talking. When they was asking Miss B, you know, Miss B, what you gonna do when you leave here? Miss B said, I'm gonna just go ahead and go in the house because I'm not trying to hang out too late. So as the bingo game was over, Miss B leaves. So as she go out and get in her car, Miss B get a call from one of her friends. Now, this friend didn't go with them. So she talking to Miss B on the phone, and she asked her, is you still coming past the house when you finish doing what you're doing? And Miss B did say she was going home. She said, but she told her, she said, yeah, after I finish doing what I'm doing, I'll be past your house to see you. So Miss B hang up, and she leave. So she get up in the car, and she drive when she going to a destination. So as Miss B driving, she driving on the back road, this road that she always takes. But just this particular day, going down this road, Miss B don't make the turn that she usually takes. Miss B takes another route and goes another way.
a way that she never went before. So she driving, listening to the music. The music down real low. Now, as Miss B driving, she said as she was coming around this curve and then it turned back into a straightaway, she said about 30 feet in front of her, she seen something run across. It went from right to left on the other side of the tree line. So she said she stopped, pushed on her brakes, but the car's still on and it's still running. So she's sitting there. So now her phone rings again. Now when the phone rings again, it's her friend. And her friend asks her, is you on your way? Is you almost here? And Miss B said, yes, I'm almost there. She said, I just seen something run out in front of the road down from me. She said, but I don't know what it was. So her friend said, it might have been a deer or something like that. She said, okay, yeah, maybe you're right. So Miss B, she hangs up on the phone. So now Miss B sitting there, she contemplating because she don't know what this thing is. So after sitting there for about 5 minutes, Miss B said she don't know what it was. She said this thing stepped out of the tree line and stepped in the middle of the road, bipedal, on 2 feet. She said she looked at this thing. She said this thing eyes was orange. That's the color she gave me. That's the color she described this thing eyes was. She said this thing was bipedal, standing up on 2 feet. She said it looked like a giant dove standing. She said it had a huge head. The ears were sticking straight up on it. The arms was hanging down in front of this thing. She said, but as this thing was standing up, it had like a slope to it, like it was leaning forward, like it didn't stand straight up. She said this thing did have canine legs. She could see all that. She said she didn't know if this thing had a tail or not. She said, but now she looking at this creature, and this creature is looking at her. So she said she started flicking a light. So this thing started to growl. So when this thing growled, she put her car in reverse. Now, Miss D starts backing this car up. She starts backing it up slow, though, while it's in reverse. And she said when she backed this car up slow in reverse, going backwards, still got her eyes on this creature and still got her eyes on the road, back and forth. So Miss B said this thing started to walk towards her car. So as this thing walking towards her car, because this thing taking big strides, 4 to 5 feet strides, she said. This thing was taking big strides. So as she backing up, she said she started beeping her horn, beep, 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 beep. She kept beeping her horn, beep, 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 beep. So as she beeping her horn, she said this thing stopped. So she's still going backwards, slow, real slow though. And as this thing stopped, it's still looking at her. It's like this thing is mad now. She said she could see this thing chest inhaling out. She could just see the breath this thing was taking, inhaling out, like it was getting bigger and bigger each breath that this thing took. She said the legs on this thing was massive. She said this thing was something you would see in a horror movie. So as she's sitting there, still going backwards, watching this thing, she said this thing looks over to the right side where this thing came from. So she said when this thing looked over to the right side of where this thing came from, she said her passenger window was down a little bit. She said when this thing looked over to the right side where it came from, she said she could hear something over in the trees like it was making noise. She don't know what it was because she didn't see it. She said this thing just looked over to the right of it, took one jump, and jumped into the tree line. She said she put her car in reverse, turned it around, went back the other way, and took the route that she usually takes. She didn't go back down that road no more. So she went on, went past her friend's house, sat down. She was hysterical. So she was telling her friend, I don't think there was a deer that ran across the road tonight. So she was asking her, well, what was it? What could it be?
She said, I don't know what it was, but it wasn't no deer. It wasn't no bear. It wasn't nothing like that. She said, but I don't want to see this thing again. She kept asking over and over, well, what was it? You going to tell me? You going to tell me? She said, now, if I tell you, don't think I'm crazy. She said, you know, I wouldn't think you crazy. She said, because I know you're a church-going woman. So she told her, she said, I saw a werewolf or Doug standing up on 2 feet or something. So she smirked a little bit, her friend, like she was joking. And she looked at the face and she knew that she was served. And she said, I'm sorry, I wasn't laughing at you. She said, I believe you. I know you saw something tonight. I wasn't there with you when you saw it, but I know you saw something. So, Miss B, that's her story. And like I said, when I talked to her, she said she still has little nightmares here and there of seeing this creature, something that she never saw before. I told her, you know, anytime she needs somebody to talk to, she could call me. My phone is always available and it's always on. So that's our encounter right there. Now, my next encounter, but before I start, I did an encounter on this before, and the lady who I'm getting ready to talk about now said that she had a friend that knew the person who I did this encounter on. Now, this lady name that I'm going to use, because I'm not going to use her real name, I'm going to use Rachel. Now, she said she had an encounter of her own after she found out and heard about the encounter that I told on Dogman Encounters. Now, this lady name is Rachel. Now, one weekend, Rachel said she was home with her 2 kids. She got a 5-year-old and she got a newborn, which was about 9 or 10 months at the time. So Rachel said she was home on the weekend, sitting there, just watching movies. You know, she had just made some popcorn and stuff. So she's sitting there watching movies. So as she watching movies, Rachel said she can hear something like it's tapping on the window. Tap, 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 tap. But when she look at the window, she don't see anything. So she don't pay no attention and she continue to watch TV. So Rachel hears this sound again. Tap, 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 tap. It's knocking on the window again. She looks again. Still doesn't see nothing. So she go back to watching TV again. So after about 10 minutes pass, tap, 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 it knocks again. So she said, I know I'm not hearing things. I know I hear something knocking on this window, but every time she looks over at this window, she doesn't see anything. So she don't pay no attention again. She's still watching TV. So now her 5-year-old gets up off the floor, walks over to this love seat that they have on the left side of their living room, not too far from the big window. Now, when a 5-year-old goes over there to where the love seat is, it just stands there and stares out at the window. So Rachel don't pay no attention at first. She's still watching TV. But she said she can hear her baby saying, Mommy, Mommy, Dougie, Dougie, Mommy, Dougie, 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 Mommy. But she said, baby, okay, yeah, Dougie, Dougie, don't pay no attention. So she go back to watching TV again. So her 5-year-old said again. This time, the 5-year-old points his finger towards the window. Mommy, Mommy, Dougie, Dougie, Dougie. So Rachel says she gets up, walk over there to where the 5-year-old, and she looked. She said when she looked, she like to fell out of what she saw. She said the first thing she noticed was them glowing eyes. These glowing yellow eyes. She said they was big.
She said these eyes was huge. She said this thing had his nose pressed up to the glass of her window. Every time it would breathe, it would fog up the glass. She said this thing then took what she said was a hand, reached up, put it on the glass, and was tapping its nails on the glass. Pat, 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 pat. So she looking at this thing. She grabs her baby. She picks it up. Start walking backwards. Still looking at this thing. She said this thing had some big hands. She said the other hand was hanging down. She said she could see the chest on this thing. She said this thing looked like it had shoulders. She said she could see part of the legs. She said she didn't see the feet. But she said as she backing up towards where this little hallway at, where you go down towards the bedroom. And on the side right there, she can hit the light. So she said when she hit the light, she glanced at this thing. Now she see this thing because the light done caught it. She said when she looked out there, she said this thing looked like it was a dirty brown color. That's the color she said this thing had. She said this thing was tall. She said this thing was humongous. It was huge. She said, and when it was looking in this window, it was like it slumped over. This how tall this thing was to even look in the window, and our window is tall, she said. So she said when she looking at this thing, she could see all that. She said this thing had chest like a bodybuilder. She said she could see the little ripples where the stomach area at. She said this thing was a male. She said she did see the male genitalias on it. She said, so that's how she know it was a male. She said, now as she looking at this thing takes his nose off the glass of the window, and it growled at like a medium growl. She said this was kind of loud. She said then this thing turned around and ran. It ran up to where the tree line was at. She said when this thing got up in the tree line, it must have stopped. She said because it turned around and she said she could still see them eyes and they were still glowing. She said then this thing let out a howl that it shook her soul. She said there's no houses near her. She don't have no neighbors. She said so when this thing howled, she said it was loud because it was so loud. She said that it woke up a little 9-month-old baby. And this baby, she said her baby, when it woke up, this baby woke up crying. So she said she ran in there, grabbed her baby, picked her baby up. And when she went back to the window and she looked, she said she didn't see it. Those eyes was gone. So she said about a month later, she was in the house. She went in to fix her 5-year-old something to eat. Now, she in the kitchen, she said her 5-year-old comes out of his room, goes over, and he asked, Mommy, what you doing? She said, I'm going to fix you something to eat, baby. So she go back to fixing his food. So she said the 5-year-old goes over and stands near the love seat. She said when the 5-year-old go over there and stand by the love seat, it goes in that same position like it was the last month, looking out the window. She said that her baby just stared out the window, didn't say nothing, just looked. Then it did the same thing it did the last time. It pointed. She said she dropped what she was doing, ran in there. She said, but when she got in there to the 5-year-old, and looked at the window, she didn't see nothing. What was it that 5-year-old saw? Was it that same creature that they saw a month earlier? She said that's what she thinks. She said because her baby not going to just go over there and stand and point like that. She said so after these encounters and hearing those howls, she said she can't do nothing but move. She said because she's scared for her family. She said if this thing wanted to, this thing could have came straight through the glass and killed all of them. And nobody would have knew because she don't have no neighbors. Nobody would have knew. And when I talked to this lady, I said, well, how's the 5-year-old doing? She said, he's doing okay. And she said that one day when she was sitting down talking to him, she said the 5-year-old said, Mommy, Dougie coming back, Mommy, Dougie coming back. So she looked at her 5-year-old. She said when he said that, she looked at her 5-year-old. She said this brought tears to her eyes because she don't know if she been in her room and he been in the front room, if he saw this thing on numerous occasions. Could this thing try to grab him while she was in the room or the bathroom or doing something else? So she really scared for her family now. So I had not finished talking to her. She said that most likely she gonna up and leave because she thinks that her 5-year-old has seen this cryptid on more than those occasions. So I told her anytime she want to talk, she could call me. I'm always available. I'm always be there. So that's her encounter. Now, this other encounter comes out of the Shenandoah National Park. And this guy, I'm not going to use his real name. This guy name that I'm going to use on here, I'm going to just call him Larry. So Larry said that he was at this park and he was driving down Route 211. He said as he was riding, he seen farms and stuff like that, cows. And he said from where he was at, where the cows and stuff at, he said you could see the Blue Ridge Mountains in the background, further over in the distance. He said you could see all that. So as he driving, he parks. So he takes one of these trails. So he took this trail, and this trail that he took, he said it took him to this place where it's a cabin out there, and this cabin is called Corbin Cabin. Now, this place or this site where this cabin is at, because it's not occupied now because it's been there so long, he said not far from there, it's like a cemetery. And on the cemetery, you know, it's probably about 25, 30, maybe 40 people that was buried on this site. You can't see the tall tombstones no more because they've been pushed over and the tombstone is down in the ground. It's a lot of grass and debris over on them and leaves, so you can't see them no more. So he said he walking around not too far from where the cemetery at. He said it's like a little small stream. So he said, you know, I'm going to go ahead and walk down here near this stream. So he said as he walking down there near the stream, he said he just happened to look behind him because he heard a noise. And when he looked behind him, he said he seen a couple of deers. But the deers was going in the opposite direction, trotting. So he turns around and don't pay no attention. So he goes down by the stream, picks up a couple of rocks, throw them in the water, you know what I mean? Just like he was a little kid again. So he said as he was walking back up, because he got to go over there by the graveyard, by the cabin and stuff like that, as he was walking up there, he said that he heard noise over there near the cabin. This cabin, you can go in it and stuff like that. It ain't like it got locks and doors and stuff in it. So you can go in this cabin. So he said he heard noise over there near the cabin. So he's still walking, but the leaves making noise because, like I said, it was like kind of warm outside and the leaves was kind of crunchy, so they making noise as he walked. So as he walking, he heard noise in the cabin, like scratching noise. It's like something scratching on the wood or something. Scratch, scratch, scratch. He can hear something scratching. So he's still walking. He walking like on a parallel angle, like to go around the opposite side of the way so he can get back, get this car and leave. He said, so as he walked in the parallel way, he just so happened to look, it's like it's a window over that way, just happened to look. He said he sees something dark past the window.
So as this thing darted past this window, it went out from another side or something like that, he said, because he only caught a glance. So he walking parallel, like going around, like I told you, the opposite side of the house. So as he walking, he say he ain't the only one making footsteps in the woods now. He can hear something else walking. And this something else is bipedal. It's walking on 2 feet. He got to go all the way around because this thing not going to parallel with him because it's going the opposite way, like it's coming around the other way, the way that he came in and going out. So as he going around, he's trying to look to see what it was or what he could see. He say he don't hear no animals, no insects, no birds, no squirrels, rustling in the leaves. He don't hear none of that. So as he walking around to go parallel, to go the opposite side of the way so he can go out to get back to the trail to get back to his car, he said he sees something, but he see the back of this thing. Now, when he said he see the back of this thing, he said he see a tail on this thing. He know it ain't a dove. He know it ain't a bear. He know it ain't a wolf. He know it ain't a fox. He know it ain't a coyote. He said, because this thing is standing bipedal. So he walks around some more. This thing is walking bipedal, but it's walking in the direction he had came down. That's the direction that it's walking now, in the direction that he had came down. When he see this thing, he see the back of this thing. He said the thing back was wide. He said he could see the ears sticking up on this thing. He see the back of his head. He said this thing did have a mane, like the lions have that hair around their head or neck or whatever. He said he did see that. He said this thing's arms was long. And he could see hands. Not paws, but hands with fingers, with nails on the tip of them. This thing still don't see him. Why? He say he don't even know. But he's not walking no more. He stopped, and he's staring at this thing. This creature is still walking in the direction where he was going down. It's walking in that direction. And he said this thing was taking some huge steps as this thing was walking. It's just walking. He said it's just like he can feel the ground shake when this thing was walking. He said this thing had to be heavy because it was wide. He said he don't know what this thing was. He said, but he know this thing was bipedal, standing up on 2 feet. He said, now as this thing walking, it gets up to where the tree's at. Because down there by the cabin and the little graveyard, a lot of that stuff is cut out because of the cabin and the graveyard. So a lot of those trees was cut out and cut down. This thing is walking up and it's getting to where the trees start at. So when it get up there to where the trees start at, we still can see this thing. But this thing still don't see him. So this thing stopped. So this thing took his left arm. That's what he called it, an arm, because that's what he said it looked like. Put his hand, because that's what he said this thing had was hand. Put his hand up on the tree. Said when he put his hand up on the tree, said it took his nail, ran it down like the tree bark of the tree. Said he can hear the sound of that. He said that sound did something to him, like it made a jerk or something like that. He didn't like the sound of it. He said then this thing dropped down on all fours. When he got down on all fours, said this thing was still big and huge. They said this thing was just wide. So when this thing got down on all fours, he said now, the way this thing looked when it was down on all fours, didn't look like a normal animal would look, he said. It didn't have like a straight, it might have a little curvature like where the back go at. He said this thing was big up top, and as it went back, it just started sloping down. Like the back end where the tail was at, it was just small. He said this thing started out walking slow on quads on all four. He said then this thing just started running. He said this thing just, he never seen nothing move that fast in his life. He said, so after this thing left, continued on around his path, got on in his car, proceeded to leave on out the park, and he left. And like I said, when he talked to Dave, he told Dave, I never doubt you again. When you were trying to tell me about these dove things, these cryptids, said, I never doubt you again. He said, they real. He said, now, I've seen Bigfoot before. I know they real. He said, but this thing, what I saw, he said, this thing shouldn't exist. I don't know what it is. If they've been here a long time, if they experiment, if they part alien or whatever. He said, I don't know what it is. So, like I said, when Dave put me on with him, man, like I said, I tip my hat to this man. He does a great job in lining these people up, getting me these encounters. And when they tell me their encounter, I always ask them, and I say, are you sure, 100% sure about what you saw? And these people tell me, they say, for one thing, I ain't getting nothing out of it. I don't have no reason to lie. I don't care if a person believe me or not. I know what I saw, and I'm sticking by it. Now he know that these things exist. So I guess he gonna change his whole routine up now because, like I said, they out here and they out here to stay. So we need to be mindful and vigilant about letting people know that these things really do exist. So that was his encounter right there. I got one more encounter, and this encounter came out of Virginia too. Not gonna say what part. When I talked to this guy, he asked me not to. He come from a good family. He got a good upbringing background. So here go his encounter. This guy, whose name I'ma use, I'll call him Steve. Steve said he was in Virginia one time, and he was out there, decided to go fishing. Packed up everything, went out, started to fish. So he said, as he down there and he's fishing, because he ain't got a boat, he had that right there with the water at, throw the reel in, I see what he can catch, so throw the reel in. Where he at fishing, it's a nice sized lake, but he's still surrounded by nothing but trees. It ain't nothing but trees around him. Now, when he going in, Steve say he can hear everything. He hear all the wildlife. He hear everything. Everything chirps, bugs, he hear everything. So, cast his line and, he started to fish. So, after about 5 minutes, caught something on the line. He reels it in, take the fish, put it in the cooler, throw the line back out again. After about another 10, 15 minutes, catches another one, reels it in, take it, puts it in the cooler. So, as he putting on the bait on the hook the third time, notice he can hear something on the opposite side of this lake. Now, on the other side of this lake, say he hears some noise up in the tree line, like sticks breaking and stuff like that, leaves crackling and making noise like that. You can still go around this whole little lake to get around on the other side, on either side. So, the distance to walk from the opposite side that he was on to the other side wouldn't take that long to get over to that side. So as he putting the bait on the hook, he still hear the noise. Now when he hear the noise this time, cause just over there where he looking at, you can see a lot of brush. Look over there at the brush, he noticed that he can see a silhouette of something moving through the brush. He don't know what it is. He on the other side. And this thing is over there. But he can see like a silhouette just walking through the brush in the tree line. He can hear it. And he knows there's something over there. So, put the bait on his hook, throw it back in. Throw it in again, after a few, catch another fish. Reels it in. Takes it off the hook, puts it in the bucket. Hear this noise again. Hear a stick break again. Crack, pop. Hear it break again. So now, when you look over in that direction over there with a brush at, because, the brush kind of tall, And then you got the wood line there, and then you got the trees over there. Look over there again. Then when he look over there again, this time he sees something dark. Now he know this silhouette that he seen a few minutes ago. He knows it's a dark figure. So when he look over there and he see this silhouette and he see this dark figure, he said he could see something that looked like two ears. He said, but when he looked and he focused in, he noticed that these ears, they look like they moving. He said from what he could see, he looked like these ears was moving, like they was twitching. So as he focusing in and still looking over there, he said this thing kind of like takes his nose and head and is pushing through the brush, looking in the direction to where he at. He said, so when he seen that, he said he dropped his rod, because now he don't know what this thing is. He is packing. You have a 357 on him. He take the snap off his holster, because now he ready, because he don't know what this thing is. He said, so when it sticks his head through in his nose, he said he guessed when it did that, it was sniffing. Steve said now he curious. Steve, I don't know what was in his mind. He said he started walking to the right, up. Now, if you walk up to the right, he ain't that many feet where you make the bend at to go around to try to get on the other side of this lake. So as he goes up there and he makes the turn, he said that's when he heard this sound, like a pop sound. And he looked over there in a direction. He said when he heard that sound, he said now he could see what this thing was sticking his head through the brush. He said this thing stood up. When it stood up, he started backing up to around where he dropped his rod at, his cooler, his tackle box and all that was at. He's on his way back round there walking backwards. This thing stood up, walks through the foliage, walks through the brush, and stands right there at the edge of the water. He could see this thing now. He know this thing should only be seen on TV. He said this thing looked like a werewolf. He said he looked at this thing, man, and this thing looked at him. It's like they locked eyes. He said that for a moment, it felt like he couldn't move. He said just for that split second, it felt like he couldn't move. He said then this thing started to walk. He said this thing walking up the other end to go around over to that side. He said when this thing started to do that, he said he snapped out of it. Now he watching this thing walk. He pulls his gun out. Boom! Warning shot in the air. Said this thing looked over at him, kind of turned his head. He's like, you know how somebody will look at you? He said, they tilt their head to the side, that this thing, it stopped and it did that. He said this thing had a head like a black wolf, because he said this thing was black as tar. Said this thing had a head like a wolf. He said it had a snout like a Dogman pigeon or German Shepherd. Had a snout like that. Said it was kind of thick. He said this thing had shoulders. He said that's the only thing he can say. They looked like shoulders to him. Said that upper part of his body was like this thing was working out. He said because this thing was cut up. Said it had long arms, which came down to what looked like to him was hand. And he said he could see the claws and all that. He said it had the bent back legs, the hocks and all that with the canine feet. He said this thing did have a tail. He said, but it wasn't a long tail, but he said it was like a nice size bushy tail. It did have one. He said, so as this thing tilted his head and he looked over there to him, he said, after he let off that shot, he said this thing proceeded to continue walking to cut that bend to come around, still going over to the side where he at. So in his mind, he said he really don't want to shoot this creature because he don't know what these bullets going to do to him. He don't know if this thing going to stop it or not. He said, but if this thing keep coming, he ain't got no choice but to unload his gun on him. So this thing's still walking. Says he points his gun over there towards the creature. He ain't no marksman or nothing. He said, but he going to shoot over there at it. And if he hit him, he just hit him. He says he shoots over there at it. Boom, boom. He said, but when he shoots over there at it, bullets hit the dirt. So you can hear it hit the dirt. Said this creature is stopped. Said when this creature stopped, he said it's like this creature got a mind like us. Say when this creature stopped, it looked down. It looked down where the dirt shot up after the bullets hit it. This thing looked down. It's intelligent. Like it knew something had hit right there. He said this thing looked down. He still got that gun pointed. So the little trail that he came down in, he started walking sideways, like up in that trail to go out. He's still watching this creature. He's still watching this cryptid. He said because this thing, it just looked like something out of a horror movie. He said this thing shouldn't be here. They shouldn't be in the woods. Should nobody have to run into nothing like this? And he said, what if he didn't have his gun on him and this thing would have made it around there and killed him? Wouldn't nobody would have knew? He just would have been dead. So he said he walking sideways out the path that he came in. He said this thing let out this howl, man. He said it sounded like a lion or something. He said this thing was loud. He said he could feel it in his chest when it let it out. He said he could feel it in his chest. So he continued to keep on walking sideways. He said when this thing let out that howl at the top part of where this creature was at, it turned and started going up in that tree line. Steve is on the other side, walking sideways through that path that he came down. Now, when this creature goes up in that tree line, it bears off to the right. Now, the right would take him around and over in the direction of where Steve is going at. So Steve stopped. He's watching this creature. He's watching this cryptid. He's watching this wolfman or whatever you want to call it, because he don't know what it is. He's watching this thing. This thing is walking, and it's walking diagonal, like it's coming on a slant, like it's coming towards the way where Steve was at. So as it's walking that way, Steve doesn't stop. He's watching this thing. This thing is walking on a parallel. It's keep walking. Boom, boom. He can hear the steps. That's how I know this thing is heavy. That's how I know this thing had to weigh a lot of pounds. He hear the steps and this thing's walking on a parallel. So as it's walking on a parallel, it's like another little path to the left of it. Look like people done probably rode bikes down this little trail or something. The cryptid bears off on that trail right there to the left. Start walking up that trail, which looked like somebody was riding bikes down there to make a path. Started walking up that trail right there. Steve's still in that same spot. He didn't move. He watching this creature because it's only about 35, 40, no more than 50 feet from him. He watching this creature. He still can see it. Even though it's still going through the trees and the tree line, he still can see this creature. So this creature's still walking. He's saying as this thing walking, he can still hear this thing growling. Like it was pissed. Like it was mad. So when he see this creature walking, now it's going the opposite way, Steve continued to go up that path. He only about 10, 15 minutes in to where he got to get back to his ride or whatever and just go and get out of there. As he get in his vehicle, turn it around and goes out. As he's going out, he get back on the main road. And as he driving, to the left of him would be that same tree line. To the left of him, out the corner of his eye, he see this thing. He see this same black dark creature running through the tree line. He had trees breaking and snapping and all that, running through the tree line, parallel, straight, just like he ride, because he on a straightaway, running through the tree line. Out the corner of his eye, he watching this thing, and this thing running. It's like it's keeping up with him. He don't know how, because how can you run through the woods and move out the way of this tree and move out of this tree? He said this thing wasn't moving none. He was just knocking stuff over. And he said it was keeping up with his car. And he said he was doing like 45, 50 miles an hour. He was going. He said as he was riding, after about 300 yards or something like that, he said the tree line broke. Then it gets into this field. When the field starts on the other side of where the tree line going to start back up at, it bears off and turns to the right. So this thing is running across the field, still keeping up with him, still riding. Said, but as he getting on the other side to where the tree line starts, he started to bear off to the right. That's when he can see this cryptid still out the corner of his eye, like it's slowing down and stopped. And Steve said he turned off, bad on around to the right, went home, and like I said, when I talked to him and I asked him, have you ever believed in these things or Bigfoot, Dogman and stuff like that? He said, yeah, I heard of Bigfoot and stuff like that, and I had seen Bigfoot when I was a kid. He said, but I have heard about these cryptids, these Dogman things. He said, but to see one personally, that's when you know something like that exists. That's when you know something out there really is real. You know what I mean? So I asked him, did he tell anybody in his family about his sighting or making them aware about what's in these woods out here? And you got to be careful. I mean, just let your family know. Just put them on point. He said he haven't yet. He said, but one day he going to really sit his family down and tell them about his encounter and the things that he's seen. Like I told him, anytime you want to talk, call my phone, and it's always on, and I'm always answer. And that's his encounter right there. I do have more encounters, but I don't want to go over the time limit on here, because like I said, when I first started and I first came on Dogman Encounters, all I did was collect encounters and sights. That's all I did. And when I write down and get all the encounters, I have them. So when I do come on the show, but I have plenty and I have more encounters. But those are my encounters for this week.
Well, that's it for tonight's show. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great night. If you've had a Dogman encounter of your own and would like to speak with me, whether in private or on the show, please go to dogmanencounters.com and submit a report. I'd love to hear from you.